Yeah,
Sparkle.
Topo Chico.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flosstradamus was the one that turned me on to Topo Chico. He's got good taste.
Yeah.
I was telling him, I was like, yo, I love sparkling water. And he's like, have you ever had this? And I was like, no, tell me more. So
This is the one.
now it's my favorite. It's also like the most expensive sparkling
I
water
was
I've
gonna say
found.
this is like the rich guys
Yeah.
LaCroix.
Yeah, he's got like fancy taste for sure.
I kind of want to drink it now.
Do it, man.
I just want to open one of all
Pop
of
it
these.
open. Are you going to open that with your bare hands?
Well, yeah, it's a twisty,
Is it?
isn't it?
No.
If this isn't, wait,
No,
really?
Topo Chico's not a twisty. You're gonna.
I'm able
your
to
hand-
twist the cap around, but yeah, you're right. It's
Your hand's gonna bleed.
not,
Yeah,
do you have a
don't
bottle
hurt yourself
opener?
on the podcast, please. I do have a bottle opener behind you. Right. Oh wow, that was
I
impressive.
know.
I can tell you've been to a few parties.
Yeah, you learn to open bottles.
That's impressive. Yeah, you gotta try that. That's good stuff.
It's like I'm used to just the regular one. This has got the twist of lime.
Yeah, you gotta have the twisted line. The other one just tastes like tap water that's fizzy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's got a little something to it.
Yeah, that extra little kick.
Yeah. Here, let me go ahead and just open every drink on here. Just get them all going.
I think that's a really good idea. Well, you'll be well hydrated. You're gonna have to pee like 12
I'm gonna
times.
piss so many times during this podcast.
That's okay. I usually do. I have a small bladder. It runs in the family.
Also, are there rules on this podcast? Can I swear?
Yeah,
that
dude.
okay,
You can say
cool.
whatever you want.
Cool.
This is an all ages podcast, although I'm not sure exactly what the age demographic
Yeah.
is.
It's all ages, so you can say whatever you want. That's not what I'm
Exactly.
used to hear.
That's right. Yeah.
That's sick.
I was told it's like most people are between the ages of 20 and 40, which seems like a reasonable number
Yeah.
for like at home producers that are like getting serious about it, you know?
Yeah, I feel like people like under 25 don't even like fuck with podcasts at all. Maybe that's not a thing. I don't know.
I don't know. Hold on one sec. I'm going to pull up my notes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Started prematurely. Yeah, man. Last time I saw you, well, we did like an online lesson together, and that was for
Yeah.
my Squishmallows album.
Oh yeah,
And that was fun.
that was good.
You gave me some really good sound design notes on it.
What I tell you?
You just said it was trash and
Yeah,
you delete it. So I did
hate
and start it over. No, you gave me some good sound design, like a couple different patches and serum. And like we talked a little bit about, there was not really phasing, but it was more of just, I think, adding some more proper harmonics to make it cut through a little harder. And then we went down a rabbit trail talking about the Nyquist theorem and aliasing.
Yeah.
And that was fun. And you did like an hour and a half presentation at the user group here at the KMG Studios for the Denver user group for Ableton. And that was awesome.
Yeah, I was deep in the technical shit when I was doing
you
that.
went so deep. Like I say 30 minutes in, I look at the room and everybody's like into it, but like half confused. Like nobody really like, we're like, what words is he using right now?
Yeah,
Is
it
this
was a lot.
English?
It was a lot.
It was good though. I mean, you had a beautiful like PowerPoint presentation with like pictures and notes, and
Yeah.
it was very technical.
Because I was building this course, and that was where I kind of like beta tested it. And I never really know. It's really hard to teach like a group of people because you just have no idea like what people know already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to send people off the deep end a little bit because like what is there even left to say? I feel like people have covered every topic, so it's kind of just like I'm at this point where I want to go to like the lowest level that I can understand and then just go from there.
Yeah. Which is probably still higher than like maybe 20% of the people that were there.
I mean, maybe, but I think honestly, a lot of stuff that like is really quote unquote technical is actually like simple to understand. If you just, you know, think about it the right way, and you don't have to like know math or like any insane shit. It's just like concepts. And I probably didn't do the best job of getting everybody on board.
No,
like,
it was great. It was actually
shit.
a really great presentation. I think that was one of everybody's favorites when I was helping with the user group for sure.
That's
I heard
awesome.
a lot of positive feedback. Yeah. Yeah, you're a great teacher. You're still teaching these
Yeah.
days, like online and stuff, aren't you?
Yeah, so I'm still doing online lessons right now. I'm about to actually start like a whole online version. So that thing that I taught is actually going to be split into like a bunch of modules. And then I'm going to be doing like an online webinar and then releasing all the recordings for subscribers and doing like kind of an ongoing version of that thing where it's like starting really low level and then just building out in all these different directions and going over like different styles of sounds and composition eventually and all that stuff. So yeah, still very much a thing. Trying to kind of revamp it though, because I've just been doing like one-off private lessons forever, but I really want to do like something more like definitive that I can give to people instead of just kind of trying to like wing it one by one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Can you move the mic closer to you?
Yeah,
a little bit?
yeah. See,
I think there's a gate on it, and so it's like kind of like
this is what I'm telling you, man. I'm really bad at.
you just pull it, do a little twist thing. And
Does this come out?
It does.
That's
yeah.
sick.
There's lots of options.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's good.
Want to make sure that the audio is actually legible this time.
Yep.
Since the Morgan Page episode.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. That was really sad.
That is really sad.
Yeah. Well, you got a couple shows coming up too, don't you? In the nearest future in Denver and surrounding?
Yeah, we're doing the Cone Sound, a couple stops on the Cone Sound tour. So we're doing here at the Ogden, and then Hudson and I are doing Edmonton and Portland, and then Andre Copycatt is doing, I think he's on the Seattle show also.
Okay.
So yeah, the three of us are kind of teaming up with those guys for a couple dates.
Dude, I love their stuff.
Yeah, well, obviously.
They're fantastic. It's top of the sound design game.
I know,
in
man.
My opinion, yeah.
Some of my biggest inspirations ever. So it's pretty crazy to be working with those guys. And
it's got to be a cool feeling. Like you get that opportunity with somebody you looked up to as like artists and producers. Like
yeah. Oh, it's been insane. And now like so many, like all the people who are on that lineup are just like friends and people who have been in this scene since well before any of this shit was happening, you know? Like the fact that Hudson and Andre both got their visas and are able to come perform in the States and do all of these really awesome shows and work with Cone Sound, and we got Edit on it, and our friend Kai ALF's on it. It's just, yeah, it's amazing.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, Copycatt, he was on the podcast a while ago, and he's actually the one that told me about you. That was probably a year ago.
Okay, yeah. That tracks.
Yeah. And I was like, I know Frequent. I know that name. I've seen it. Like, I've heard it. And that's how we ended up connecting, was because of him. And he's at a coffee shop. I think he's going to come back in a little bit. Yeah.
He's been staying with me out here, which is surreal because we had never met until he came out here. But we've known each other for like, I don't know, 10 years online. So, yeah, it's been pretty, everything feels like it's coming together lately. We got everyone out in the house. We got, everyone's moving to Denver or Vancouver, and seems like, yeah, we're going to be able to make it happen here. So
yeah, Denver, that's one reason why I moved here a year and a half ago. Like the music scene here is glowing up quite a bit. For sure.
It just keeps happening too.
It does.
People still moving out here.
Yeah. The goal is just to get all of our friends and producers to get here eventually.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who are like pissed about people moving to Colorado, but growing up, like there's nothing happening when I was growing up here. So I'm kind of just like, get them in here, you know?
Yeah, you were telling me that. I was like, it's a 50-50 split. It's either people like you who are like natives to Colorado, who's like excited that there's more people moving here and there's more to do and opportunities. And there's other people who drive like pickup trucks and they've got like Confederate flags.
Yeah,
they're
dude,
like,
totally.
Screw all these people moving.
Get these Californians out of here. I get it. It's definitely become kind of a clusterfuck here. Don't get me wrong. And like, I hate driving to Denver, and like, it's a lot. But also, like, every cool place is kind of like that now. And so it's kind of just like, I don't know. Yeah. Do you want to have your friends around and have people care about this place, or do you want it to just be like desolate? And I know there's a lot of people who would rather it be desolate, but I don't know. I'm pretty stoked to see like the electronic scene thriving, and like tons of people I've known for years having a shot to do pretty awesome shit that I never thought I'd see. So
totally, man.
Worth it, I say.
Who are some like, I guess, up and coming producers that you've either collaborated with or that you've gotten to know recently that you were like stoked about?
Just the whole Upscale crew out here is like that, basically all that. Just a ton of really young guys and people who, are doing something a little different or a little, just like something personal to them. My roommates right now are Park with 2 A's, and then Andre's living with me, Copycatt, and then Seb Vidra, and all of them are insane. And then we got like Izzy Kramer and Artifact Generator, our friend Rasan. And then there's just all the people I've known out here forever, like Tom, Kyoto, John Restraint, and obviously like Detox Unit lives out here, Curtis, Bogshot. Like there's just so many people who are like from the 2 eras of my life, like the online people who now I know in real life and are all doing insane shit, and then kind of all the bass music guys who I've met over the years, who are also doing insane shit, but have just kind of been out here the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool. So like, I'd love to have people learn a little bit more about you if they don't know you already. How did you get started with music, and eventually how did that lead you to using like Ableton Live?
With music. So before I made music, I was so young when I started, first of all. I had to be like 9 or 10. And me and my friends had like these shitty little Sony camcorders. And we just go like film random people and just like try and make like skits and shit. And the way I got to audio software is we like obviously wanted to try and edit these videos, but we didn't know. We were like 10, so we didn't know what was up. And I remember we ended up using my friend's dad's old copy of Mixcraft Acoustica. Was like the first.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's just some.
That's amazing.
It's like some shitty DAW thing. I can't even remember what it was like because I was so young. But yeah, we were like messing around with that and like dragging. I don't even know if you can use video in it, but we were like editing audio clips in that. And then through that, I figured out that there's all these other programs, and I got like Audacity, and I would like edit. I would just like take a song and just like cut it up in Audacity, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But yeah, overall, I just eventually realized that I wanted to make music, and I got FL Studio, and I didn't really get it. And I tried a bunch of other stuff, but Ableton was just the most like, I still feel this way, honestly. It's like, it's one of the best because it's just like everything is just in one window. So it's really easy to kind of understand what the hell is going on. Yeah. Compared to FL, which is just like a million windows and just like shit is connected, but like you don't, unless you know how it's connected, it just feels really arbitrary. So yeah, I kind of switched from FL to Ableton pretty early on, like within the first year that I started. And I had to be, I don't know, like 11 at that point.
The old Fruity Loops days.
Yeah. And then I got Ableton and just kind of YouTubed my way to victory. You know what I mean? Like, and no clue. Made some terrible tunes. Oh yeah. But I was in like middle, so like nobody. And again, this wasn't a thing here. Like dubstep was kind of big. But there was no like other scenes in Denver. There wasn't like some diverse market of bass music happening. So I didn't have like friends who were into it really until I got to high school. I had one friend, my first roommate at the same house I'm at now, Brendan Kovacs. Was
I know Brendan.
Yeah.
I've known him for a long time.
Yeah, same. He was like my first music friend.
Oh, that's hilarious.
We met in French class. We're friends all through high school.
Amazing.
Making neuro shit and you know, into Cohen Sound and Culprit and all that. So
small world. Should have him on the podcast.
You should hit him up. He's in town from time to time. I think he moves to LA. Yeah. But he comes back. I think he's just here actually.
He opened up for Big G not too long ago.
Yeah. He's been crushing, man.
He's been killing it. Yeah, for
he's been playing all sorts of shows and stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy for him.
Yeah, me too. It's great to see everybody just kind of blossoming. Yeah. I don't think any of us expected it to go this way when we were all that young, just kind of doing it for fun.
I think that's the best way to get into it, though, is like you don't have those expectations. You're just doing it and messing around. You have no idea what you're doing, but you're having a blast.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where the best stuff comes from, honestly.
Dude. Exactly. That like playful mentality. We're not trying to force it. You're just enjoying the process.
Yep. And then eventually, if you want to commit, it becomes a whole other thing.
Then you have to use your left brain and like you have to get on a schedule.
Yeah,
and
you got to figure out money, which is always fun.
Right. You just sell an organ or something, you know?
Hit the plasma donation center.
Yeah. There's a lot of those, I feel like, around here. I've seen
I live right next to one. We live where we live is so funny. We live in Thornton. We live next to a store called Cigarette, and then we've got Liquor.
Oh, wow.
And we've got Reptile. And then we've got the Plasma Donation Center.
It'd be really hard to compete for SEO for those stores. It's like
top of the
line. Such a creative name. Creative business names.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I read the other day that it was like $60,000 for a kidney. If you
really?
Yeah, if you want to sell your kidney, you can sell it on the black market for $60,000.
I was going to say, is that black market or is that legit?
Well, there are doctors, I think, in Canada and Mexico that like are kind of on the grind. Like that's their side hustle that they do, and they're like actual doctors. Yeah, they're like real professional.
That's a crazy side hustle.
You know, I respect the hustle, honestly. Like hard times, economy and inflation. You gotta do what you gotta do.
You don't really need that kidney.
Right. You only need one.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You can take medications.
$60K? I mean, come on.
Yeah, there's pills for that.
Yeah.
It'd be okay.
For real.
Yeah. Well, it would be cool for people just to kind of learn some of your like workflows and stuff. I mean, this is like a music production podcast.
Sure, yeah.
And like, I think you've got a pretty awesome brain when it comes to production and like things that I've seen you teach and stuff. Like, what are some of your favorite like Ableton Live workflows that you think that other producers could like really benefit, or just things that you typically do in your workflow that might be beneficial?
Ableton workflows. Well, one thing I do that's really obnoxious for me is that I kind of don't let myself have like a template or like a thing that I'd rely. So like every time I start something, I actually like start from scratch and force myself to do like every little intermittent step.
That's interesting. Like, why so? Because you hear like a billion tutorials and like tips and stuff about templates
to do the opposite. Yeah, it's because you just end up doing the same shit every time if you do that. Like, I think so much people stop learning at a certain point in production because they have become so dependent. I mean, so if you're going to learn any skill, you have to make some habits, right? Like the whole thing is like converting these like very real-time conscious decisions into kind of subconscious habitual muscle memory, which you need to do. But at a certain point, once you've done enough of that, you actually reach this point where like you don't really need to consciously think about anything anymore if you don't want to, and you can kind of just let that side of your brain take over and just do it. And so I notice when I teach people, like a lot of the problem isn't that they like don't know how shit works. Like it's never like a technical issue. It's always that they've plateaued into this point where they're just kind of recalling muscle memory over and over and over and getting the same result over and over and over. And they're like, well, how do I improve this? And the answer is always just like, well, you gotta do something else. I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you keep doing the same shit, you're just gonna get the same shit. And so I think like templates and presets and all of that, while they save you a ton of time, obviously, they don't force you to think at all. Like that's the whole point of them, is to make it so you don't have to think about it. And the less you think about what you're doing, the more you kind of just end up in the same spot because you've trained some pathway that works for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, in a lot of cases, if you don't care and you're just like, yeah, I want to make like this type of track and I know how to do that, I have a template for it, like fine. But for me, I just get really sick of doing the same thing over and over.
Sure.
So I just don't know. I feel like there's so many people who have made like, if you take like a standard genre piece, it's like, there's somebody who's done that way better than I could do it. So I don't really get like, I'm going to just make like another drum and bass song to add to the pile of drum and bass songs. It's like, I'm never going to compete with the dude who's been ripping that for 20 years. You know what I mean? So it's always like, how do you find something a little different or like some other angle to approach it from that's personal and isn't going to just be like the de facto thing that everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's really just like, force yourself to find a new way every time. And it's like such a waste of time in a lot of ways, but I never feel like I'm making the same song twice ever because I have to do every little bit of it manually, which is, you know, maybe not the best workflow if all you're trying to do is finish songs, but I don't really care about that.
I see what you mean. Like that, I get it to a degree. Like for example, I have multiple templates, but I usually do start with a blank slate. It's just like my blank slate is like, I have like 6 return tracks with all my favorite effects on it or buses. Sure. And then I've got like my limiter, clipper on a master. And then that's it. Like that's my fresh template pretty much. But yeah, I think if you just keep doing the same thing and you're expecting like to create a different vibe or different results, then like if you have a template with all the same sounds already loaded and everything, like then it's probably going to start, everything's going to sound the same, which could be good. I think if you're trying to go for that and have one consistent sound for every song, then that's because that can be hard for some people. It's like, I don't know what my sound is, and that can be a real struggle too.
I think that's the funniest problem in music production is like, what is my sound? It's like, I don't just do some shit. That's your sound. It's just the decisions you would make. And I think so many people make decisions that have been kind of assembled for them by other people that it just sounds like some of tutorials instead of like decisions they actually found on their own. And this is why like a lot of the upscale guys are so inspiring to me, is it's a lot of people who like maybe don't even have a ton of technical knowledge or do, but never applied it in the sense of like trying to sound like a specific thing. It's like people who have completely figured out their own way of approaching it and thinking about it and arranging and all of that. And I think that's your sound, right? Is like having a way to apply these things in a way nobody else would. And that's in a lot of ways harder to figure out than like how to put the knob right there. You know what I mean? Like anyone can learn that. Yeah. But learning like a way to do it that other people wouldn't do is I mean, yeah, there's no tutorial out there that can teach you that. So it's harder.
Yeah, that's true. Like, let's talk about Upscale because you mentioned it. I don't think people know what that is. So like, it's a music collective that you created. How long ago did you start that?
I think it technically started in 2014.
Okay. It's been a while.
How long has that been? 12 years crazy. Or something?
Yeah. Amazing.
All right, no, that's not how math works. Yeah, 9 years, 12 years.
What is math?
Yeah,
so imaginary numbers.
Going on 10 years. That's how math works.
That's wild.
Yeah, we started it. So it was me and my friend Alden, who produces under Evoke, who is kind of under the radar these days. I think he's about to release some more music soon. But he used to live in Boulder, and I'd go to his house all the time, and we were like really in on neuro hop forum and this idea of like neuro music, which people listening to this podcast, I have no idea like how much people even know that term.
Neuro hop.
Yeah. Or like neuro in general. But it's kind of just this little niche of music that is an offshoot of like drum and bass respaces and that sort of sound design brought to lower tempos. And it was really big in like between like 2012 to 2016 was kind of the sweet spot where you had all these people out of the UK basically spearheading this whole sound, and Cohen Sound was absolutely part of that. And you had Culprit and Sorrow and people like, who else was on it? The earliest Inspected. I remember even like Xylent was on the early Inspected. And a lot of these just kind of guys who were doing this new sound, you know, like nobody had really touched it yet. And there was a whole wave of kids who were obsessed with that. And there were even a few labels who came out of that were kind of like the alternate Inspected labels. There's one called Caliber Music, and then Adapted Records, which I think a lot of people actually know because so many people were signed to it early on, was the like glitch hop label. And it started to like adopt some of these neuro flavors as that was happening. Mm-hmm. And so me and Alden like really wanted to be involved in that whole thing. We like really wanted to be on Inspected, just like all the other kids.
Yeah.
And we had no like real in with them, and none of that was happening here. That was like all actually UK based stuff going on, you know, like there was no way to kind of cheat your way into it. Yeah. And so we were like, okay, maybe we could get on like the Caliber or Ammunition or Boca or any of these other like side labels that were doing it. And we couldn't get on those either. And so there was this sort of like, we felt gate kept out of the actual UK thing. And it was because we weren't very good and we were like just kids. But like, there's something about that where we felt like we could make a community for like kind of the Americans who could never get on these like proper UK labels. Yeah. But we're still inspired by the sound, right? And there's so many people who were like obsessed with figuring out how the shit was made, because there was no like, now you can just go Google it. You can go to the Cohen Sound Patreon. They'll tell you exactly how they make the fucking sound. So
they've got awesome tutorials on there too. I've watched a few. Yeah, it's really solid.
There's some of the best. So it's like, you can definitely, it's worth learning, but that did not exist. So there was everyone was doing the most complicated shit ever, just trying to like, just pissing in the wind, trying to figure out how the hell people are like doing these really, really specific things in sound design. And that's where the forum came from, is just like post upon post of people like posting bass sounds and like getting competitive about it. And if you can make the coolest ones, then like you'd have all this respect out of this like tiny community of people. Yeah. And I like, I remember people like Disprove and Odesza and Scope and like all of these these guys that were pioneering this really early frontier of that sound. And so we started the label as a subsidiary of Adapted. Actually, it was like a side label. And the whole idea was like, we would go and find artists who are kind of like on this new wavelength and bring them into the label, and then Adapted would push it and advertise it.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so, sorry, go.
No, I was just going to say, so like, what did you necessarily do for the artists in that collective? Like, what were you actively doing?
So at first it was really just like get everyone together, get music from them, provide artwork. We had like a designer. And realistically, it was just like take this music, hand it to the guy who owned Adapted. And this is not controversial, but that guy ended up being a complete piece of shit and like stealing everybody's money.
Oh,
and
no.
Like, you know, kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Dude, that's a real thing, man.
Oh, so common.
It's a classic. It's crazy how many artists don't really know how to protect their rights and royalties, and
oh yeah, I mean,
and how to even advocate for themselves, you know, for like an equal split of whatever that is, whether it's shows, whether it's like music rights and royalties, publishing rights.
Absolutely.
Definitely worth educating yourself in. You know, I was talking with Circa. He owns Entrepreneur. It's like a marketing agency for musicians and independent artists. And like, he's like, the best skill you could teach yourself as an artist, other than just making your music, is like learn business, like learn the marketing and the business side. Because like you're going to be broke and eating Cheerios your whole life if you want to make a career out of your art, if you don't learn some of those things.
Yeah, because everyone's out to just take a slice, realistically.
Yeah.
And we learned that the hard way. I think a lot of people did. And it's not like we were going to make any money off of those releases either, to be fair. It was like he signed like hundreds of people and was just taking a little bit of money.
Oh man, that adds up when you have all these artists.
Totally. And you start to realize like, oh, that's why there were so many artists on this label. It was just like a business to this guy. At least in the end. At first, I don't think so, because he was actually like putting together something pretty special. I mean, Andre and I were on one of the first Adapted like compilations. It was called the Up and Comers compilation.
Oh, okay.
And that's how I even like got in touch with a lot of those guys early on. So for what it's worth, I mean, Adapted did help us a lot, but it ended up just being like vaporware in the end. So all of that said, we started the label and we're working with Adapted and having them do the distribution, and we just collect music and release it, pass it over to them to get it on all the Spotify and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, a few people would hear it. And that was the label for the longest time.
Yeah.
But all like very few of those people are involved anymore. Like I don't run it with Alden anymore. I run it with Hudson Lee. And around like 2016-ish, I want to say, is like when the new era of the label started, and we got like rebranded everything. We got a whole new roster of artists and started doing like everything as a collective instead of a label. Like we're not here to take people's money or like own the rights to anything. It's really just like get everyone in one spot and then promote each other's shit. And it's kind of all it is.
So what would you say to somebody who say like, hey, I'm sitting on a couple of these tracks. I think it fits the vibe of this collective and this label. Like, what's really the benefit of moving to a collective versus moving to a recognized or sizable label?
Oh, it just totally depends on which one specifically. Because like labels, it's so hard. I think now there's kind of this new thing where like net labels. So a net label is like a label that does nothing but distribute your song and post about it, which is a lot of labels. That's technically what we are. Like we don't really we're not doing a ton of things outside of that. Like we'll run some physical merch and like do what we can. But the reality is a net label is just like some intermediary thing that has a bunch of followers that you release on. But I think what we learned over time is that most label releases, even if the label itself is way bigger than you, don't really do shit for you in the end. They end up owning your music and taking half of your money and then absorbing a lot of the retention from the release itself in most cases. So I think for labels, like the times it's actually worth doing is when they're going to invest in you in some way. If they're going to do some sort of physical release of the thing, or they're going to like, you know, help you get shows or provide actual PR and like pitch the song for publishing or like anything, you know. But a lot of labels don't. I mean, we don't do really much at all, to be honest, because it's just not what we're we aren't trying to run it like a business. It's really just like a thing to support artists. And I think if you're thinking of signing to a label, it's important to ask yourself, like, are they actually trying to support the artist, or is it a business?
Yeah.
And the line between those things is super blurry, and it's not always obvious. But
Right.
a collective is different because there's not like any incentive to actually, like, there's no profit mechanism. Like, I haven't made any money off of Upscale ever.
It's like a really cool book club.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're like with a bunch of homies. And I find that like in my experience and what I've seen, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Like in my experience, a lot of times collectives, that is like the added benefit. If they're going to do the distribution and they're going to do the artwork or whatever for you, like that's awesome. Label might do the same. But in the end of the day, it's probably connecting you to a wider network of people in your genre and giving you like even maybe more social clout to like share off of each other and like grow off of each other and piggyback off of other artists in that collective, because it's more of like a family kind of vibe than it is like, okay, this is a transactional vibe. If you give us your song, we distribute it. Maybe we'll make a post and then we move on and we just collect your royalties, as a lot of bigger labels do, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the most valuable asset there is. And I think people people want to get on Upscale or like constantly asking about like what they should do to like get their music heard and move forward in their career. And the answer is always just like know more people, like, and know people who are talented, you know, like knowing talented artists is like the only reason I'm doing anything still.
Yeah.
And those are the people who actually have the power to present your music to people and make some sort of difference in the way it's perceived beyond just like, because you can have a really small following but be really respected in the producer scene.
Sure.
And that goes way further than like a bunch of random people respecting you, but they don't have any like means of connecting with you other than like maybe ticket sales for a show. It could be useful. But if you're plugged in producer world, like everyone wants to support you, and it's like this very organic thing.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to like go and try and get like reposts and all this shit. It just happens.
Yeah. And for anybody listening, like in my experience and all the people I've met and heard, is like, it could be really hard to break through the noise and get people's attention if you're trying to get their attention. If you want to, whether collab or get on like a label or a collective or whatever, I don't know. In my experience, it's better just to always focus on building a relationship and what you can give more than you can take, at least in the beginning stages. It's always about like, how can you contribute and support rather than just trying to take away from right away. Right. And like that makes all the difference.
And I think it's hard to understand from if you don't have that connection. Because I remember like sending cold demos all over the place. I remember wanting desperately to be on labels.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Like it's just kind of part of the thing. But eventually you realize that like if you're on the other end of that and you have a community and everybody's trying to get into that community, it's like, well, why do we don't need you. Like, what are you actually going to provide that we need? And the answer is nothing. Like, there's so much good music out there. There's so many talented people. Like, you don't really need another guy ever. The thing that makes the difference is like, oh, we're like friends with this person and actually like them as a person.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
That ends up being a lot of times more important than anything else in this whole industry. It's like, I know people who like barely even make music, but are awesome people. And because of that, they have insane opportunities to do things. Yeah. And nobody's even upset about it because it's like, they earned it by just being genuine and good to the people around them. And that's like the biggest asset ever, is people just like you and then they want to do things for you. And especially if people like you and you're really talented, it just works out.
It's a win. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a win for everyone.
It's hard to explain that to people who don't have the connection yet. Cause you're kind of just in this box isolated. You have no idea how people feel about the music. You have no means of like having these conversations with other producers. So yeah, I think ultimately it's just most important to like organically connect with first other artists above everything else. Like other artists are like the people who have the power to help you and are not going to exploit you usually.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly in line with what Odesza's tour manager told me. Because I met him probably like in 2016. And I asked him that question. I was like, hey, for an up and coming artist like myself, like who wants to go on tour or really connect or be on a label like somebody with Odesza and support, like how could I get there? What's your best advice? And he's like, the first thing is focus on your brand.
Yeah.
He's like, your brand is like the most important thing as an artist, because anybody who ever is going to work with you, if you want to really blow up or do something, you need to have a solid brand. And he's like, second thing is it's all about support and relationships.
Yep.
He's like, be a good person, support the artist that you want to connect with, post about them on social media, buy tickets to their shows, stick around to the very end of the show when everybody's like drunk and leaves, and then they're tearing down the stage for like an hour and a half. And then go up and talk to them and just like tell them, like, don't talk about yourself, but talk about like how you want to continue to support them, see what you can do for them. And then, you know, keep building that relationship if you can. And then just let them know that you're like still grinding and working on your brand. And if like it works out, then it works out. And like continue to support and then build that relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how, anyone I know who I still want around is just people who were friendly. You know, it's really that simple. There's not any like secret tech to actually becoming big in this scene. I think like charisma is like the main thing, like it or not. Like if you are good with people, that's really what it is, right? I
think we've all been to like a show where we saw the opener and it's like, this is bad.
Yeah.
Like, and it might just be because like the headliner, however big they are, probably just loved that person.
Yeah,
and they probably
just a homie.
Just total
throw
homies.
them on there, you know?
Exactly.
And like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think people get salty about it because they think that the music scene is like merit based in some way, which it absolutely is not. Like you could be insanely talented, but you aren't owed shit. You have to be friends with people or it won't ever, maybe you'll get really lucky, you know, like that can happen. But if you don't want to count on a coin flip, like you got to get out there and talk to people and be not a piece of shit. You know what I mean? It's a hard line to ride for sure.
Well, so let's talk about this because it came up on the last podcast and I don't think it was like actually really talked about in depth, but like, what is the Nyquist theory?
The Nyquist theory?
Because you talked about it on a level that I don't think I've heard before at the Denver user group. And it was good. And everybody's like, this is really wild. I didn't know this.
So, I mean, first of all, I'm like no expert on any of this shit, just for the record. Like I know all this off of Google, man. I know pretty much everything off of Google. So keep that in mind. But Nyquist is just, okay, so the idea is that a computer is sampling out in points, right? Like it is, if you think about your sample rate, it's just like a bunch of dots going horizontally. And that's like how your resolution of the waveform. And so if you have like this thing going up and down, and you have like, let's say you have 4 points and the wave will go like up from the first point and down through the second point and then up through the third point and then down through the fourth point, that makes sense. But if you have a wave that's supposed to oscillate, like go through the zero crossing and come back up, the only between 2 points. So we're talking really, really fast oscillations. So like ultrasonic frequencies, you can't even hear it usually. If it's going too fast to actually be represented by just 2 points, like you'd have 2 cycles in between 2 points, it has to basically interpolate that and say, okay, now this is just one wave instead of 2 between these 2 points because we don't have enough resolution to actually make a wave for each of those cycles. And so you get like these weird artifacts in the audible range because all of these things that are actually really high frequency are so high frequency that the computer can't read it as like 2 waves and it brings it down to like halves the wave size. So now that's a frequency that's low enough to hear and it comes down here. So Nyquist is basically, it's this idea that like there are sounds constantly happening when you do sound design that are way beyond the audible range. And at a certain point, they're too fast for even the computer to actually sample it out quick enough. And so you get like artifacts in the audible range that are generated from these supersonic frequencies that you can't actually hear.
Right. And that's what we call aliasing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that makes, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that was honestly one of the best explanations I've heard in person.
Sure.
About, And so I thought you did a great job in your presentation. I've had students ask me that, and I feel like I botched the answer pretty bad, even though I know what it means, but like articulating it, that was really good.
Yeah, it's kind of abstract too. But like the application of that, and like a lot of these things, like, again, because I don't think technical knowledge is even that important to be creative. But if you know about this is like how, if you're using operator, like the reason it sounds like that when you do the FM is like a lot of that is aliasing, because when you do FM, you're immediately generating harmonics like well past the audible range, and then you get this distortion.
Yeah.
And people usually talk about aliasing like it's this bad thing, but it's actually like how you get cool sounds out of FM a lot of times.
Yeah, aliasing is not inherently bad.
No,
or
nothing's
evil.
inherently bad.
Yeah. And a lot of like Pro Q2 and plugins or whatever already have aliasing built into them, like that filters to like work with aliasing for that purpose. So,
absolutely. I mean, a lot of things do.
Yeah.
I mean, distortions, that's like what oversampling is it artificially increases the sample rate so that it's faster, like has enough resolution to not alias. Which in some cases you do want, and in some cases you kind of want it to sound like shit, you know?
Sometimes that's not bad.
Yeah, like a lot of times actually.
Right.
So it just kind of depends what you're going for a lot of times. I think there's so much like conventional wisdom and like mixing advice that comes from an era of like you're trying to make it not sound like shit.
Yeah.
And now there's so much music where like the whole point of it is that it has like some distorted character or some like evil muddiness about it, which is, I don't know, like whatever, it doesn't matter.
Especially in the music world you live in with bass music, because a lot of it is just sound design and just tweaking stuff until it sounds cool. Really,
just cook it. It doesn't matter.
Just keep baking it. And that's one thing that I think like makes your music really original and stand out is you can hear that like really abstract playfulness in the production process. Like, cause you're making, like you said, a lot of these sounds from scratch, like you don't even work from a template. So you're just like, just probably freezing and flattening the crap out of a lot of these sounds and just like re-distorting them or doing other stuff to them and filtering them. And
just make a giant chain.
Yeah. Just a huge chain until your computer cries and then flatten it.
Yeah, a lot of times people like ask me how I make a sound, and it's like I just didn't stop where you would have stopped 20 effects ago.
Yeah,
and there's no like secret thing, you know. You just keep doing shit, and eventually you'll get something interesting. And that's the non-technical aspect of it. Is it doesn't really, there is no like right or wrong way to do anything. People are just very like careful about it and like don't want to like ruin it. And I'm kind of just like, I need it to be ruined to be interesting because I've heard every sound up until that point. So I got to just like add another thing and add another thing. And then suddenly you get something novel, but it's not out of you being like smart. It's just because you've like made so many arbitrary decisions that you're suddenly in a new place.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
I used to be way too like precious and careful with my music. And then I just found myself like my sounds were like very boring.
Sterile.
Just sterile. Yeah. That's a good word.
Gotta cook it.
Cook it up, man. So what would you say are like some of your favorite go-to Ableton audio effects?
I don't know. I like them all, honestly. I mean, that's not a very good answer, I guess.
All of them.
Yeah, they're all good. There's really not any that I think aren't good. I use some of them more than others. Like OTT is obviously one of the best, but like they're all good. I use the amp. I use Corpus. I use new phaser flangers, actually good. The old one was terrible, but the new one's great.
Yeah, I never used the old one.
I don't know what was going on with that. Yeah. Some people loved it and are like upset that they changed it, but I think the new one's great. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like any that I don't use. They're all.
I use Redux way more now since Live 11 because they redid the interface. It has a dry wet now in it, which is nice.
Yeah, Redux is nice now.
Shifter's pretty dope.
Yeah, new shifter stuff I'm here for. All of it, you know? I mean, that's why Ableton is good, is because it just has like technically you have everything you need out of the gate. You don't really need any extra shit. I remember for years, I actually insisted on using all Ableton stock. Like I wouldn't even use VSTs or anything for a while.
Really? Wow.
Just because I was like, the limit is me. It's not the tools.
You're right.
And then now I'm kind of the opposite. It's just like, give me just like, I just need something to put in here. It doesn't really matter what it is. Like the more random shit you have, the more options you have to make a new sound. So
true. Yeah. I mean, Homemade Spaceship, Rob, he just said hello in the window. I just saw him walk by. But he was showing me a track he's working on the other day, and he's been running and processing like his vocals through spectral resonator, which is like a freaking awesome. Like I think I'd enjoy that more than I do the vocoder, and you can get a similar effect or sound out of spectral resonator.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible.
All those Dylan Bastian, like he's mad.
Did he make spectral resonator?
Yeah, he made all of the like Max natural, what I can't remember what the hell it's called.
The natural selection. Or no, not natural selection.
You know
natural.
what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. It has like
Inspired by Nature.
Inspired by Nature.
Yeah.
Not natural selection.
Close enough.
That's very different.
He's got like the tree tone thing, and I'm pretty sure he made
notes.
spectral resonator. Did he not?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I knew he made the Inspired by Nature pack.
Yeah. Maybe he didn't make that. Maybe I shouldn't know. But it's similar to a lot of his shit. It makes me feel like he probably did at least work on it, but what do I know?
It's very possible.
But
He's
yeah, all
brilliant.
those are crazy. Like,
yeah, they're wild. Do you have some favorite packs that you typically go to?
like max packs?
Yeah.
Nope.
No, not really.
That's what I'm saying. I don't have like I really just like have a million VSTs, a million Macs for live devices, a million samples, and I just kind of like wade through them. I don't have a.
Do you make a lot of your own racks and then just save them?
Absolutely not. I don't save presets.
Really?
I don't save racks. I don't save anything. I just open it and wing it.
I feel like that would take a lot longer for me to make music.
Oh, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
But like, I also like, I don't know. I think efficiency became way less of a priority at a certain point for me.
Okay.
Because I'd rather have a few songs that I really like than like a million songs I don't give a shit about that are done. You know what I mean?
So your perspective is like, even if it takes me a lot longer to finish, you're just wanting to be able to be surprised by whatever you get every time, basically.
Yeah, I just want to actually be engaged with it. Like the aspect of like building your own puzzle that you solve is really interesting to me, instead of just like, well, here's all the pieces, just put it together like a Lego. It's like, no, I gotta make the fucking bricks, man, and I gotta,
pour the concrete.
Yeah, exactly. There's something about that. And also, it's like, if you work that way, you just get way faster at doing everything, because you have no crutch. There's no like thing to rely on to make it work every time. So now if I gotta start a song, it's like, I can get you something going in like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It's a good enough idea to make a song out of, but obviously it's way slower than watching somebody who has it all pre-mapped and it's just like ding, 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 ding. There it all is.
Yeah.
But part of the thing that's fun is like figuring out what you're going to do. To me, like if I just have a preset, it's like, I already know what the song is going to sound like to some extent, because I've used this sound a million times and I'm familiar with how it responds and like what behaviors to expect. But if I start from a patch I've never even heard before, it's like I'm having to like learn it as I go and like work with it and lean into what's working and like actually feel like I'm responding to what's going on. Otherwise, I just feel like kind of like a robot, you know?
Yeah. I guess I get it. I like to save and organize a lot of stuff because I feel like it is a shortcut for me.
Well, you shouldn't do that. That's bad.
You're wrong. You're wrong, Dan. You should delete all of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I'm one of the only people I know who doesn't. It's like kind of insane.
Well, actually, Grizz does a similar thing. I heard him on a podcast and he basically said he doesn't use templates either. He just starts from scratch every single time, which is wild to me because I feel like he has a very consistent
like sound.
Sure. Yeah, which like I was shocked to hear that. And obviously he's a big name, so he's crushing it and he's got a lot of streams, but really interesting. Yeah,
templates are tough. Like I think they are as helpful as they are a crutch. Like as with anything. It's like habits, right? Like you have to learn how to do shit automatically without thinking about it to be good at anything.
Yeah.
But then that also becomes the thing that limits you the most at a certain point. So it's a balance there, right? Of like, how much do you want to be done for you so that it's easier versus how much do you want to like actually learn something new and like make a decision you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's a key part too, is just constantly being in that state of learning. A lot of the success I've had just with this podcast and my own music and journey and music is like, I've always really tried to have a passion for learning in some respect, you know, like even if it's like stupid little facts that I pick up along the way, like I just always want to stay passionate about learning something new, whatever it is. And especially with music production, like you have no reason not to continue to learn and grow.
Infinite.
It's just like, there's so much knowledge that's just like available on your internet. You can consume just sitting on the toilet for 15 minutes. You can learn so much on YouTube.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's like, we didn't have that. I feel like when I was in high school. Like,
I mean, it was just starting to be a thing when I was getting into it, and most of the info was like completely worthless other than like the basics. So like, I understand that feeling. And I think, yeah, there's now kind of a disconnect with people because like there's almost too much information available.
Yeah.
You don't even know what's real and what's
it's hard
not.
to trust some people.
Exactly.
There's like some 17-year-old kid who's like, this is the only way to mix and this is how you have to do it. And it's like, nah, dude.
Absolutely. And like there's so many educational platforms and schools and YouTube channels and like people doing private lessons and and it's all great. Like obviously I'd way rather, if I had those resources, shit would have been way easier for me. So
for sure.
I'm not against it, but I think people fall into the trap of just kind of like blindly trusting resources that aren't really going to give them knowledge that allows them to get past that threshold of just kind of like regurgitate some predetermined ideas back over and over and you know what I mean?
100%. Can you hear that bass?
Yeah, what is that?
Dude, that's Studio A. We've got a thick door in a soundproof room, and I can hear the bass just thumping.
Ripping. It's probably Andre.
Probably is. He just went in there and just took over the room. He's just testing out some bass. That's hilarious. So, like, talking about learning and music stuff, like, if you had to go back, like, knowing what you know now, to yourself, like starting specifically with like music production, like what advice would you give to yourself back then?
Oh, to stop worrying about sound design.
Really?
Of course. It was such a waste of time.
What do you mean like learning about sound design? Like, or is that because like you got too worried about what you're doing right and wrong, or is that
it's just a distract? Like making good sounds is easy. You can just do random shit and you'll eventually get a good sound, but you can't do random shit and eventually get a good song. Like songwriting and arrangement is all that matters at all. And you can just use anything as a sound. And I think myself and so many other people were so caught up in the idea of like, if I can make this neuro bass, then it'll be sick. And if you listen to my old music, if you can find it, it's like, I figured out how to make a neuro bass. And that music is not sick at all. Like it's like not even musical.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a musician, you know, I dabbled with guitar for a while, but like I had no idea how to arrange a song or anything. And I remember, like when I first started trying to work with people, like artists who I remember when I was like in high school and I got a collab with Scope and I was so excited for that because he was like one of my biggest inspirations. And I would like work on it and send him the thing. And he's like, dude, you gotta have like a riff or like a musical idea in this, like there's just nothing here. And then he would send it back and it would just be like 1,000 times better just because he just put like an idea in the song. I'd try and work with it, but I was so out of my depth and it just never went anywhere. I like haven't talked to him since that. Like it just went so poorly.
No.
And no bad blood against him because he was right. And I look back on that. It was like a huge learning moment for me because like I always looked up to him as like this crazy sound designer. And I had access to he like sent me a giant folder of drums and basses and sounds and shit. So I literally just had all of it. And it was all that was left to do was to actually like put it into a song. I couldn't fucking do that to save my life. So like that's the main piece of advice is like arrangement matters is it. Nothing else matters. Everything else you can learn really easily. Like if you have a problem mixing a song, someone can get in there and be like, oh, just like EQ that like that. And it's very one-to-one. If you don't know how to make a sound, you can just watch some guy like put 35 effects on a saw wave and you're like, oh, that's a crazy sound. I guess I can just do random shit and eventually I'll make a sound. You just record it out and there you go. But like, if your song is not an interesting piece of music, then like, what can you really expect anyone to say? They can teach you how to like, or maybe even just show you how they would arrange it. You know what I mean? And like, fix it and redo it, but that's not, it's so much more abstract and kind of the one thing that can't be transferred one-to-one is how to actually be creative and actually like write an idea. That's the thing that you're doing. And like nobody wants to learn that because everything else is so much easier to learn.
Yeah. I remember Quincy Jones is reading this book called 12 Notes on Life and Creativity. It's like one of the best books out there. It doesn't really teach you how to make music, but it's like gets you in a really good headspace, and he talks about his successes and how he got there. But he talked about that. He's like, he calls songwriting, like his songwriting process, he always does like the goosebumps test. Like he'll leave it alone and then come back and listen to it. And if it gives him some kind of goosebumps or a feeling, then he knows it's going to do that for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's That's true with songwriting too. Morgan Page mentioned that. He's like always focus on songwriting before mixing.
Or anything, yeah.
Yeah, just because in the end of the day, like if the songwriting is there and it sounds good, like yeah, the mix might not slap perfectly, but people will still like a crappy mix.
That's the thing people don't realize is like mix downs are like actually not even, unless they're like so bad that the song is unlistenable.
Yeah.
If it's passable, it's good.
Yeah.
If the idea is good. If the idea is great and
Yeah.
the mix is passable, the song is still great.
Really good reminder.
You know?
Yeah.
But if the mix is great and the song sucks, the song still sucks no matter what. So like,
True.
it's a way harder problem to solve.
Exactly.
But I think, yeah, that's kind of like through all the teaching I do, it's like you always just hit this wall of like, I can't teach you how to arrange a song. I can only teach you how to like try to abandon all of these kind of predetermined paths you take every time. Like get rid of the templates, and even beyond templates, it's like even if you take everyone's templates away, they have like in their mind a template of how to do like, oh, I need drums. Well, I always just open a drum rack and put these specific samples in, and then I put the tempo to this, and then I put these here. It's like everyone's kind of built these pathways, and the only way around that is to like get away from it and actually focus on being creative in a new way, like without all of these crutches. And through that, you actually train like songwriting and generating ideas. And I think if you can get good at making an idea, then like the rest of it kind of doesn't matter. And this has been made so clear to me through a lot of the friends I have now, like don't know fucking anything about production really, at least compared to like the nerd people who I hang out with and consider myself to be, who have spent way too much time thinking about like how sound design works and all these like really low level things. And I go look at like, you know, people who honestly don't know about that or care about it at all or even try to do it well, and they're some of the best sound designers I know and some of the best musicians I know, and they just sit down and wing it, and it's amazing, and it took nothing. And I think about all the time I wasted just trying to be able to do that, but I was not learning that. I was learning how to like sit in Serum for 5 hours and just wah. It's just like that. You're not doing anything, you know?
Yeah. I don't know about you, and I think I've said this before, but like, it always seems like my favorite and best music takes the least amount of time to produce. It just kind of happens and it flows out of you and you're not overthinking it.
Exactly.
And sometimes I have to like really grind on something just to get it to the place of where I feel like it's perfect. But even though the word perfect doesn't really exist anyway. So yeah, I think getting in that flow state and not overthinking it and trying new stuff and having that like playful production mentality, like you were saying, I think is really important. One thing that did help me with songwriting in the past was using locators and just like structuring a map of my song. And maybe I didn't follow it perfectly, but at least it gave me a roadmap. I'd be like, oh, here's 16 bars for like the drop. Here's like 8 bars of like a build up. And then just kind of structuring and moving stuff around inside of that framework.
Interesting.
Has like helped me. And
like before you make it, you'd like set it up.
Yeah. Like, yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
Or even dragging another track as like your reference track. Obviously, because referencing is helpful, but
I disagree with everything you're saying, but please tell me more.
You don't use references at all?
Fuck no. I hate reference tracks.
Really?
I think it's a terrible idea. Make your own music. Why? Because here's the thing. A song is like a series of like compounding decisions, right? It's like if you're going to use this one kick drum in your own song, like say you're starting from a kick drum, you've just made a bunch of decisions without even knowing it, because now every single sound has to sit with this one kick drum.
Okay.
And it happens with every sound against every other sound. So it's like this massive cascading tree of decisions. And it will never be even remotely the same as somebody else's things. So like what's working in that song is never going to apply to your own song. Ever. At all.
I totally agree. I know what you're saying, and I agree with that. I think for me, if my room is not 100% perfectly treated, it's sometimes good to have a reference point for how hard or how loud a bass is hitting. And I'm not trying to like perfectly mix exactly like that other track.
It's to give you an idea of if you're even doing it
exactly, because like your ears will play tricks on you. Like that's just being an imperfect human. And so sometimes I think it's good to have a reference point. Not that I'm trying to sound exactly like that track.
Of course.
But it gives me kind of a way to just retune my ears to jump back into my song.
I don't think it's actually a bad thing. I'm just very like because people want to do this when I'm collaborating with them. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, let's listen to this song. And I'm like, no.
Like, no.
Because then I'm immediately thinking of my song in terms of this other song.
Yeah,
and
like, that comparison can kill the vibe.
Absolutely. And it's like, I want to trust myself to do it well without needing to know how someone else did it. And also, there's been so many times where I'm referencing something, trying to like understand why their thing sounds good and mine doesn't. And eventually you realize it's like, oh, because every single element has a little something different to it that I can't pick up on in the nuance of like all these things combined. Sorry, it's not to like,
no, I'm here for all the conversations.
Of course, yeah. No,
yeah, I agree and disagree. I think I will always probably use reference tracks, but I think there is a danger in that of wanting to compare the quality and how good your mix is to somebody else's, because the sonic capabilities of the samples and the chains that they're building is not going to be exactly as yours.
Yeah.
So I agree. Like, I think that could be a slippery slope, but it helps me recalibrate my ears to see if I'm in the ballpark of where something's hitting.
It is nice to put it on and be like, okay, my song doesn't sound like shit compared to this song. So that's a good sign. I think that's like probably the best litmus is like, if you can go listen to something else and go back to your thing and it doesn't sound like weird, then that's a good thing. Yes. But I also think that mixing is like such and nobody wants it to be, because everyone wants their song to like be objectively good, whatever that means. But I think when we were talking earlier about like, I want to find my sound, like so much of that is in the way you mix and like the decisions you make about like the timbre and overall, like something I've learned working with a lot of people is that like people's hearing is so different. You know, I have a lot of friends whose hearing is fucked. They can't like hear high end at all.
Went to too many shows without earplugs.
Yeah. Or like we're in drum lines or worked certain jobs or whatever. And it's just like when we're working on shit, we are not hearing the same thing even.
Yeah,
and like
that was real.
I listen to people's music who I think is like too bright or too dull. And it's like, well, that's part of like who they are, because they are hearing it differently than me. And like everybody is hearing it differently and listening on different shit. Like there is the thing that's like kind of liberating about mixdowns is that there is no there's no objective mixdown, because every single person who's ever going to hear the song is going to hear it on a different system through a different set of ears. So like the song doesn't actually sound a specific way. It's like always contextual. And in some conditions it's going to sound good, and in some conditions it's going to sound terrible. And that's just kind of like what it is. You know what I mean?
No, I hear what you're saying. I think it also depends on the intention of where that music is going to be played.
Yeah, of course.
So for example, if you're producing a track for commercial or for like Netflix or something, you're going to have to hit a certain amount of lufs. You're going to have to mix for that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's got to be like as like rounded as possible.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And if you're wanting to mix for a dubstep DJ set, you're going to have to smash it to like get it to be as loud. Yeah, you got to clip the crap out of that thing to get it loud enough so it doesn't sound really awkward when you transition. So I think context is really key too with like finishing off the mixing process, you know?
Absolutely. And like you can design it for certain types of systems. Like this is an interesting thing too though, because a lot of people are like, oh, you can't have like stereo sub is like the one you hear all the time because like the sub's going to get some to mono, or like it better have good mono compatibility so that people who listen in mono can hear the song still. And I'm like, who the fuck is listening to a song in mono? Like, have you tried summing any song to mono? It always sounds bad for the most part. Like I remember for a little bit, we had one of those Amazon Alexa things at our house.
Yeah.
This is the first mono speaker I owned, and you'd play music off of it. And
the
like
little hockey puck looking one.
Well, it was like the big ass.
The tower Alexa. Yeah, you got the fancy one.
God, everyone in our house was just saying such horrible things to Alexa every day. But yeah, it was so weird to hear like every single piece of music you'd put through it would have like a different type of fucked phasing issue because it's a mono speaker. I don't know. How are you going to you're going to mix for Amazon Alexa? Get the fuck out of here. Like nobody cares what it sounds like on that.
Well, dude, that's like the sad thing about the world we live in today is like people listen a lot of times on their crappy iPhone speakers.
Well, of
and
course.
so like I have to reference on my iPhone speaker because I
Do
know
you though? Or do you have to make music for those people? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, if that's how a lot of my audience is going to be listening to the music, then I want to make sure it sounds good on all the speakers. But that also can be,
Yeah, it's a weird challenge, right?
yeah.
I submitted that like if it sounds good on my speakers, that's the only place I'll ever hear it. And through that, it's like most people are like, yeah, the mix sounds pretty good.
Maybe that's how you're able to finish and release music consistently, starting without templates.
Absolutely. You just got to let go. Like, I think people are like, just care about all of it so much. Care about the sound design, the mix down, making sure it's all perfect. It hits the right luff.
Yeah.
People are like mastering their songs. And like, dude, I literally just like slam it into Pro L, listen once on my speakers, and I'm like, that's good. And you just render it.
That's beautiful. I hope to get to that point soon.
Yeah, you can start right now, but
I can
try less. I don't know.
Just don't care. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and that's honestly good advice, really, to a point. It's just to care less and stop being so pretentious about your own music. That's a real thing. Actually, I have you to thank for really pushing me to start mastering my own tracks, because I got to a point where I was like paying out the butt to having some really legit talented mastering guy who was way too expensive in LA to do some of my masters. And he's got a full analog setup, and like he runs it through his chain once. It's like there's no revisions.
Yeah.
And he nails it. Like, I've liked the work he did, but you're like, you told me, you're like, dude, mastering's a scam.
It kind of, well, unless you're a band,
and I totally agree now. Yeah. Like, after thinking through our conversation, I was thinking about it. I was like, and I have mastered my own stuff. I've done a lot of that, but also like am coming back to the point of where I just want to be mastering all of my own stuff now. Yeah. Instead. And before I was like, maybe I'll save some time, even if I'm spending a little bit of money, having more other people do it. But I went back and I'm like, listening to those tracks that guy mastered, and even though it sounds good, I'm like, what if I wanted to go back and remix it or whatever? Like, it's not going to sound the same.
Yeah, now it's like forever you need this guy.
Completely different sound. Yeah, I'd have to send him a whole new version all over and wait on him.
Just another crutch.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally agree and think that like mastering your own stuff should be something you work towards. 100%.
Yeah, I don't even like when you say mastering, I'm not even kidding when I say I just limit the fuck out of it. And that's my master. Like,
exactly.
I think people think it needs to be a whole process, but it doesn't. Does the song sound good? Yes, you nailed it. Done.
The mixing really is the new mastering.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
And I think a lot of it is just like these. I don't want to like completely delegitimize mastering, because I think it came from a real place, like at one point in time, making a piece of music was like a job for 20 people, know, you had a whole band, a mixing guy, you had the producer, you had the mastering engineer, you had so many people who this whole like chain of command where everything would get passed along. And I think once everything was consolidated into DAWs, people kind of held on to that conventional wisdom. And a lot of it still does apply. Like, a lot of these mixing things and like don't have stereo this and like mix to the kick drum and like hit this luff level and gain stage, blah, 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 comes from like the era of recording bands. You know what I mean? And I think for that, it's probably legit advice, but like, I don't know anyone who's doing that. Everybody's just making like weird sounds and shit in their own thing. So I think now that we are expected to be like all 20 of these people at once, the first thing people on the education side want to do is like re-split that up into separate things that you can individually learn. But it's all like totally illusory. Like, honestly, you aren't doing a bunch of different things. It's one process. It's just like arrangement, mixing, sound design, mastering is literally just like, did you put all the clips in good and does it sound good? And that's it. There's no like separate step. If you're like taking a second session to mix your songs, it probably means that you like didn't make the sound good to begin with. You know what I mean? It's a lot of it can just be like, as I'm dragging a sound in, I immediately notice like, oh, I need to EQ that a little bit. So I just do it. And that's like both mixing and sound design and arrangement. It's like all of it at once. And the less you try and split it up into these stages, because it isn't real. Like, it's realistically, you can just like do everything in one go and hit render, and that's a song. And there's not really any need to separate it because nobody ever sees the other side of it. Like nobody has any idea what you did to that song to make it other than you.
It's true. That's true. I guess unless you're like working with like some orchestra for like, you know, something else. But if you're like producing and writing your own music, like there's no reason not to learn how to do all those things.
Absolutely. And to realize that they're not even different. It's just like one thing and you can do it all in one go. And like, of course, if you're recording bands or like doing anything that's like more technical than like, I just want to make a song,
right?
Then I think that there's a lot of like, I mean, shit that I just don't even know about. Like if you wanted me to like mic a drum kit properly and like process it into something that sounds good for a band, like I just couldn't. I have no idea how any of that works. But that is not, that type of wisdom almost is like irrelevant to like a guy who's just like, you hand me a drum sample and I'm just going to ruin it on purpose and be like, that's sick. And I don't think it needs to be, you don't need to think very hard about it. Yeah. People want to think really hard about it.
It's true. No, I mean, as a drummer, like I started doing drum covers and that's actually how I got into electronic music, because like I was doing drum covers and I was like, my drums sound bad. Like, how do I make this better? And then I was like, ooh, sound design. Like, how does a compressor work? Like, how do I not have phasing problems with like 5 mics? Like all this other stuff. And I think that knowledge is also really valuable too.
Of course.
To learn even just like the proper mic placement and stuff like that, because that's half, I don't know. I love collecting samples and then smashing them. Yeah. But like, if you get a better recording with a microphone to begin with, it's going to sound better in the end.
Exactly.
So like,
and that's like a technical thing. Like there's no way to like wing recording a drum kit and have it sound like actually studio grade professional.
Unless you're using MIDI triggers.
I guess, yeah, that's a thing.
Should get Roland to sponsor this podcast.
You should. Roland, where are we at? Get out here.
Seriously. Yeah, they make great triggers. Yes, Superior Drummer is probably one of my favorite like drum plugins. I mean, it sounds incredible.
And that kind of circumvents all of that, right?
It does.
Somebody mic'd it up for you.
Totally.
And now it's just back to like, you're just a guy making creative decisions.
100%.
You don't need to know shit.
Yeah. I used to mic my kit and now I just like play my electronic kit or like put triggers on my acoustic kit, and just Superior Drummer just always sounds good.
Yeah. And it's fun. Like it doesn't need to be, it's so interesting. Like you can make it as technical as you want, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's helpful to know the basic rules so then you could break them.
Yeah. I mean, this is like what the whole course is about, right? Is like, instead of giving conventional wisdom of like, you always mix to here or like this, it's really just like, how do these tools actually work? Like what the hell is going on under the hood? And then from there, you can like do all sorts of shit in any direction. You can break it. You can try and use it the way it's supposed to be used. You can think about it in whatever abstraction you want, but knowing like, on the lowest level, just like what is even happening, I think is kind of, it seems useless because it's so abstract. Like we were just talking about like Nyquist and aliasing and stuff. It's like knowing what aliasing is doesn't really make you better at FM, but it does allow you to do a bunch of clever things with the concept of aliasing, if you think about it. And so, I think a lot of the most useful information is just like so far low level that it's like you have to be creative to even apply it, instead of just being like, well, you're always going to want to roll off your kick at 80 hertz so it doesn't interfere with this. Like those sort of like hard and fast rules I'm not really about. It's really just like, how do you get abstract without losing people? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I have to pee so bad.
Dude,
right
I'm just drinking a million things. So
you have to be so well hydrated. I've watched you drink 5 different drinks during this podcast.
I'm down to pee. Let's pee.
All right, let's do a pee break. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. That was much needed.
Yeah, that was good.
That was really nice. We were just talking about your course. You've got this website course.
Yeah.
What do you teach in that course? Tell us about it.
I mean, so it's kind of, again, that thing I taught here was sort of a beta test of going into sound design fundamentals and then using that as a basis to explain all of these different sort of types of sounds. So like starting from like Fourier transforms and Nyquist and all of that shit, and then going into, you know, like basses and then like glitchy stuff and then like melodic sounds, and then going into like audio versus MIDI and all these different like anything I can think of, but using this sort of like fundamental basis of like these low level things that almost seem too abstract to matter, but then showing you exactly why it does matter and how to apply it in real time. And I'm working with Mr. Bill's new manager, George, is helping me build out a whole new website. It's going to be frequent.audio. I have no idea if it will exist already by the time this comes out. My old website still exists, but yeah, he's actually helping me build. It'll be a subscription that integrates into Discord, which is pretty cool. So like
fancy.
If you subscribe, you get in like my Discord and you get all these private channels and you can come and join like the live. I'm going to stream all of the lectures that I do.
Oh, sweet.
So if you're a subscriber, you can like get the opportunity to come get a seat and watch me do the thing and ask questions. And then all the recordings of that go onto, you get both the Discord and like private parts of the website. So you can like, go click a link from Discord that takes you to the website and you get like private embeds of all the previous recordings and stuff.
That's cool. That sounds like a lot of good resources.
Yeah, it's awesome. And like, I'm way too dumb to build it. So bless you, George, for making that happen.
Are you going to like allow subscribers to also access your OnlyFans when they join?
Of course. That's like the main reason. You just can't advertise it,
Exactly. It's like you got a lot more subscribers just now.
You don't want to know what's on this website.
Just holding patch cables. It gets real weird.
Patch cable bondage. Let's go.
Yeah, man. You got to give the people and the fans what they want.
It is what they want.
It's what they're asking for.
I know it's what you guys want.
Oh, that's great. So when is that available? You said you're not quite sure.
It's almost done being built. Hopefully, what is it? It's October now. Hopefully sometime this month. When is this coming? I guess it doesn't matter. But
that's a really good question. I'm honestly like way overbooked, like too many podcast episodes back to back. So now they're stacked back like a month and a half.
So neither of us know.
I could probably find out. If I had to guess, I'd say like early November.
Okay, then I'm going to be confident and say frequent.audio, get in there. It's live right now.
It's live now, ladies and gentlemen, whenever now is.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's what I've been working on behind the scenes. It's kind of just trying to build a definitive course that isn't me just winging it in front of people all the time. Because that's kind of my MO, if you haven't noticed that about me. But I do think it'd be good to have a thing that I can send people to that's like, this should answer like 90% of your questions. And then if you have something you want to figure out specifically, like hit me up, we can do a lesson or whatever.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I did a lesson with you and it was great. Like it was really good feedback on my track that was like 90% done. And you gave me some really good tips and things to tweak.
Yeah.
So
thanks.
You definitely recommend it. Anybody listening, if you want track feedback or whatever, like hit up Nolan.
Yeah. Hit me up.
Yeah.
Give me some money.
He's a nice guy. Give him your money. Open your wallet.
Yeah. Open your hearts, open your wallets.
That's right. It's worth it. So what upcoming projects other than your website and teaching is coming out into the world? You mentioned shows, Cohen Sound. Congrats. That's really cool.
Yeah. We got that going on. This week is McCrum week. So everyone in my house is releasing a track every day this week. And the one that it actually just released like now while we're doing this.
No way.
We did a song. All four of us worked on a song using samples of my cat, Lucy.
I love that. That's fantastic. Can we like pull that up?
Yeah.
You want to listen to it?
It's going to be Meow Monday.
What a great track name.
Oh, it's not even distributed. This one we literally made yesterday and the day before.
Oh, so it's not out.
It's on SoundCloud only because we didn't have time to distribute it. The rest of them, so I have a song that actually the distro got messed up, so it's out right now, but it's supposed to come out tomorrow. And then Seb's song is on Wednesday. Andre Copycatt's song is on Thursday, and then Sadler Park his song is on Friday. So
it's called Meow
Monday.
One word or two?
2 words, I think.
Is it frequent?
I don't know. I did. Yeah,
is this
there it is. That's
Upscale. It. Oh, dope.
Yeah, we got a new song.
I don't know how loud this is, so guard your ears for a second. Might be crazy. Hold on. All right, and I love the artwork too. Is the cat?
Yeah.
Is that like a glass ball?
Yeah, that's the orb.
That's incredible. Hey, speaking of, this is perfect timing.
Yeah, we're about to play Meow Monday.
Is Andre on this track too?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Meow Monday.
Yeah.
I'm about to blast this. Welcome. Did you skateboard back like 5 miles?
Yeah.
This is Andre's new board.
Oh, it's the Jesus board.
Jesus board. Jesus skate tech.
That's incredible. Can you like ride over water with it too?
Yeah, you can skate on water.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right.
There's free water at all their events, and if you're really in with it, you can turn it into wine.
That's incredible. I love that. All right, let's listen to this track. I don't know how loud it's going to be, by the way. I can hear the cat samples.
Yeah, that's Lou.
Shout out to Lou. That's nice.
Yeah, we love that. Boy, give us something a liquid death.
Yeah. I just opened it for the bit. It's actually
For the bit.
full.
For the sponsorship.
Nice. That's really tight. I like that.
Thanks.
I heard a couple like good giggles in there too.
Yeah, this is the Seb section.
Yeah, Seb went so hard on this bit.
So is Lou getting her royalties on this track as well?
It's a bit of a legal grey area because she's a cat. But absolutely the cutest thing I've ever heard. It's so
Oh, that was beautiful.
It's Meow Monday.
Meow Mondays. Let's go. I loved it. That was really sick. I could hear like a little bit of the different influences from following you guys for a little bit, like kind of hearing a little bit of both of your sounds kind of like tie in together a little bit.
Yeah, we've been having so much fun just like actually writing shit again for the first time in so long.
It's awesome.
straight into the noise bases.
Yeah. Lots of farts.
Yeah, lots of farts and screaming into the mic.
Screaming, farts, and giggles are like the themes of our music now.
I think I obtained about 10 recordings of Nolan screaming profane things in the first week.
Amazing.
Just because he was like, yo, hit record. And then he just starts like yelling.
His Tourette's coming out.
Oh, yeah. It goes hard, though, you know?
Yeah.
It's
You
all
guys
rage.
aren't ready for how loud we are on these songs.
I love that.
We're going into the positive luffs.
Yeah.
That's when you know it's loud enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome back to the podcast, dude. By
Yeah,
the way,
thank you.
Andre, aka Copycatt.
Hell yeah.
Whatever episode that was. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a
Probably
bit.
a
It's cool to be
year,
here in
maybe.
person now. This is
Oh,
crazy.
it's way better in person.
Yeah.
It's way more fun and way more drinks.
Yeah, way more drinks.
So many drinks.
So many drinks.
It's going to be so hydrated.
I brought a bunch of different kinds. I was like just expecting you to pick one, and we just opened all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Which
One
is
by one, we're going to make it through all these.
you should.
Is there anything left in that cooler?
We've taken one pee break so far.
Yeah.
We need at least
Can we
5.
do another nootropics shot?
We could. You want to?
I actually do.
yeah.
Would you like another one?
Yeah.
Dude, let's go. Shout out to Magic Mind for sponsoring the podcast. They're like real OGs as far as
Oh, yeah,
like,
they're an actual sponsor, so it makes
They
sense
are,
for us
yeah.
to do
no,
this.
and they accidentally sent me like another like 100 pack to my old address before
my
I moved,
God.
and I messaged them. I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry I moved. Like I don't have that anymore." And then I ended up getting it, so now I just have like a ridiculous amount of
So now we got to get through them, if anything.
I'm just trying to help out.
yeah. But no, I love that stuff, man. Like it's a good alternative to coffee. Although they say you could take it with coffee because it like reduces stress and anxiety and helps you like focus with like all the mushrooms, and they call it like ceremonial grade matcha, whatever that means.
Ceremonial grade.
That's what they call it.
Isn't that a derivative of the word ceremony? Like, what?
Yes, it is.
There's some sort of ceremony involving. Actually, that kind of makes sense. It's matcha.
Yeah, this is the headiest shit ever.
It is. Yeah, it's well labeled. I mean, it's really quality stuff. You can go grab some.
Matcha, agave, passion fruit, vanilla, red beet.
This is where I needed Jamie for the podcast because I would just tell him to go grab us more shots.
Yeah. Wait, I can go grab them. Where do I got to go?
Oh,
Is
the fridge right there.
If you take a left around the corner, there's the fridge over there.
That's what I'm here
Just
for.
grab 3. I'll stock it again next week or whenever I come back.
Oh, damn. There is so many mushrooms and shit in this.
There's a lot of good stuff.
This is crazy.
Let me read this off.
I mean, it's long. The Magic Mind New Elixir patented blend is long.
It's a lot of good marketing terms in this. But I'm telling you, man, this stuff really works.
I feel good after the first one. You know? I can't tell which drink is doing this to me, but I'm feeling good.
Yeah, it is hard to like tell. You've got a lot of drinks. Please consult a healthcare professional. Yeah, none of you guys are pregnant or nursing, are you? Because you're not supposed to drink this.
We'll see.
Yeah.
McCrum gets pretty lit.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, cheers, boys.
Cheers, y'all.
Make sure you give it a good shake.
Yeah, you get it.
It does settle. There's a lot of ingredients in here. But yeah, shout out to Magic Mind. Thank you for this generous donation of theirs. Cheers. Yeah, one of these is like, I think $6 or $7 or something like that.
Oh. It tastes so weird. It's not bad.
It's very earthy.
Yeah.
Very earthy
Kind of
flavor.
tastes like shampoo.
It's nice. I like it. It's kind of like a little bit citrusy.
It's like an all-natural shampoo kind of flavor.
Actually, it kind of tastes like passion fruit. There's like a passion fruit.
I think there's passion fruit in it.
Is there?
Yeah, I reckon there's a... Yeah, there's passion fruit
21
in there.
calories.
It's pretty good.
You could have like 100 of these in a day.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
What would happen? Can you have too much Magic
You become
Mind?
immortal.
You could just start tripping.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happens to your baby if you're pregnant and you take this?
They become
It
immortal.
just becomes mega mind.
Really super smart. They just the least stressed baby. They never cry. They're super productive. They're like doing your laundry when they're 2 years old. Oh, my mom's calling. Sorry, Mom. I'll call her back.
You can get her on
No,
the
yeah,
podcast.
let's pull her up.
Should I call? Should I answer?
Yeah, you actually should. Yes.
Hey, Mom, I'm on a podcast right now. Say hi to the people.
Hi, Dan's mom.
Yeah, everybody says hi. Andre and Nolan are here.
Hi, we miss you.
Yes, the podcast mom. You've heard it from here. All right.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Love you. Bye. First time my mom's been on the podcast. That's
That was
exciting.
big.
Amazing
That was a big
lady.
moment
for
Yeah,
sure.
I really owe a lot to her. Like my life
I was gonna say, I bet.
and just pretty much everything in general that I've ever done.
Is she here? Is she living in Denver?
No, she's in Indianapolis.
Oh, damn.
She's a retired nurse. She's really bored, so she just like picked up random shifts because she's actually like phenomenal musician.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah,
What
she
is
she used to sing for like all these really OG old like Christian artists that were like really famous back in the day.
That's tight.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, she's a great vocalist. So yeah, she's pretty awesome. She used to like fill in and teach for my choir in high school, and I hated it because like having your mom as like a substitute teacher is like not a vibe when you're going through puberty in high school.
yeah.
You know?
Well, shout out to your mom.
Yeah,
Great
shout out
have
to
her
your
on the
mom.
podcast.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. She's the
Yeah,
best.
Do you reckon she took nootropics while you're in the womb?
It's possible.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, either that or
Yeah, you're a nootropics baby for sure.
I could be. It's possible. I don't know.
We should have asked
wish
her
I
while she was
was.
on the phone.
Mom,
Actually,
she probably doesn't even know what nootropics is, honestly. She's even a nurse. I feel like that's like a hipster term. That's like a new
Yeah, I don't really know what it is either. I know like
What is a nootropic?
it's like it makes you smart by eating mushrooms. That's the best definition I can give.
Yeah, according to WebMD, the term nootropics first referred to chemicals that meet very specific criteria, but now it's used to refer to any natural or synthetic substance that may have a positive impact on mental skills.
Oh my god, that is basically anything.
Yeah, like eating food is technically a nootropic. Definitely helps.
That's really true. 3 categories: dietary supplements, synthetic compounds, and prescription drugs. So pretty much anything is a nootropic. health experts generally agree that taking prescription nootropics for FDA-approved purposes, such as ADHD or whatever that is, if you have Alzheimer's, can be helpful. It's basically just like a very broad word for mental stuff, I guess.
Dude, install an ad blocker for the love of God.
Dude, there's so many
I
ads.
like these ads.
Minor joint pain, take this drug. That's the crazy thing about like today in like the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
It's just like you go to other countries and you can't advertise
can't do
drugs,
that shit.
prescription drugs. Like you
Oh,
go to
really?
Europe, you can't. I think they're like the only other places like Switzerland or Sweden, one of those
That
two.
you can do
That
it?
you can, yeah. The U.S.
Makes
and
no fucking sense that
the
you'd be able
US
to advertise it.
Yeah, the U.S. is one of the only countries in the world where you can actually advertise for prescription drugs.
You can advertise anything you want in this country.
Yeah, it's
God bless America.
Except for like nicotine products. How does that make
Can
sense?
you not?
How does that
Wait.
make sense? You can go to the doctor and get like you were used to be able to go to the doctor and get Oxycontin, which is basically heroin.
Yeah.
But you couldn't advertise cigarettes. To,
Yeah.
like,
That is true. I guess you can't really advertise cigarettes. I see.
You never
This
see a
is what's
commercial.
crazy is like since I don't have like cable or anything anymore, and I ad block everything to death. I feel like I see less ads than ever before at this point in my life. Like if I have to sit through like a 10-second ad, I'm like out most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm like I don't need to watch this content actually,
right.
which is fucking insane. I feel like before, like I always like remember jingles from when I was like, you know, a kid, and I would sit and watch cable, and like half of it is ads, man. Like
is.
half of it.
Oh, totally.
Now you try and do that today, it's like I can't even stand looking at this Tylenol banner. I'm like
Yeah.
pissed.
And now you get like a Hulu or like a base Peacock subscription, and they still show
It's
you ads.
still
Yeah, that's
ads.
messed
So you're
up.
still paying for ads. Like, how does that happen?
It's actually crazy to see all the streaming stuff kind of like dying right now because they couldn't maintain, like it's all just kind of like blew up to the point that it was almost like cable again, where you had to get like 10 subscription services to get everything.
Yeah.
I heard like Disney Plus is about to like go under almost.
Oh, what?
Like it's like failing. Yeah. And like Netflix is kind of the only main holdout. Yeah, you should look that up. No.
Yeah.
Try on
Instructions.
installing it.
That's what they're trying to do right
They're
now.
just telling you how to troubleshoot to reinstall it, basically. Is it in decline? Oh, Disney Plus subscriptions fell from 157.8 million worldwide to 146.1 million, a loss of 11 million-ish, more than doubling last quarter's record decline. So yeah, that is going down, but they still have $146 million
Disney.
after a steep decline.
Yeah, they'll be fine. I mean, the writers' strike had a lot to do with it too.
It did,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I mean, the whole AI thing is insane with like whole movies and like writing and scripting and
You
people.
saw they
Yeah.
won though, right? Or like won in quotes.
Well, whatever. We
They
need.
got
Yeah,
their
what is-
terms, but the only catch is that in 3 years they're going to renegotiate it. But they got basically everything they asked for now, which is insane.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
AI
that's a little
protections and
win.
everything.
Yeah, that's a
It's a
that's
total
something.
win for 3 years, and then the AI is probably going to be way better, and the
Exactly.
studio's going to be like, yeah, now you can go fuck yourself.
Well, I just saw an article today. I think Tom Hanks is like either pressing charges or he was like being super vocal about some dentist company did like a full, almost deep fake AI of him talking about their brand that he never did, and then he saw it and was like, "What the?"
Yo, you can't do that.
Yeah, and so then he like is trying to like go after him now. It's like that's pretty ballsy as a company just to take somebody that famous.
Yeah,
and
somebody-
be like,
yeah.
we're just gonna.
No one's gonna know.
Nobody
Just,
will notice
He's
this.
just got a nice voice.
It's pretty stupid, actually.
It's actually so dumb.
So
But
dumb.
It's going to be really crazy to see in the next couple of years, like
Yeah.
how that all, because there's unavoidable. People are just going to
Yeah.
do it anyways.
For sure.
Until they get away with it eventually in some capacity. And like,
Oh yeah.
it's going to be a little nuts.
I mean, the level of like bullshit videos you see of like Donald Trump and Biden right now
always.
saying things that are just ridiculous. It's like, how are you even gonna know? Like in 5 years
Eventually
from now,
you
like
will.
what's real or
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
Well, actually, they're making AIs that can detect if it was made by an AI.
Wow.
That's
that's
always the solution.
interesting.
Just throw
What
more
was-
AIs at the problem.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's so interesting.
And then they're going to make AIs that can figure out how to trick the AIs that tell if it's an AI.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending
an
circle.
AI inception.
Yeah,
just-
exactly.
yeah, that's
We won't
crazy.
even be using the internet. It'll just be AI using the internet on
AIs
our behalf.
fighting each other. Yeah.
exactly.
Can't wait.
Just surf the internet for me today and tell me
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
need to know.
Yeah.
That's pretty Pretty wild, man.
I feel like Disney Plus is in decline because their shows suck, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I think they boomed initially because they were making like cool stuff. Like The Mandalorian first season was wild, and there was a bunch of shows that were actually good. And then, oh man, like, because I was subscribed. I think I'm still paying for it because I'm too distracted to cancel it. But I'm like, every show I watched, one after the other, just was like worse than the previous.
Worse,
Yeah.
So cringe.
Yeah. I got my mom's Disney Plus account, so thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Shout out
Get her on the phone.
Shout out to Mom again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did like Loki. Did you ever watch Loki? I'm not really into Marvel that much. I'm not a big Marvel person. I mean, it's cool, but I really liked that one. That was a really good show, I thought.
Yeah, I watched that. I liked that. That was good. Yeah, some of the Marvel stuff. I think the Marvel's the same though. Like I'm kind of I'm not a Marvel fanboy, but I like the movies. I just like superheroes.
Yeah.
But I think everything after Loki just got worse and worse. Like it was again same thing. They just were like really ringing that
They just
Marvel.
gave up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
dude.
make 20 more of these real quick.
Yeah.
I just don't see Hollywood, like mainstream Hollywood, pumping out original ideas anymore. It's always like somebody wrote a book and they made a movie about it, or they're just like building off of some comic that existed, 20 years ago or something. It's like, I don't see a lot of really super high quality original ideas.
I mean, it's the
pumped
same
out.
with like AAA video games. It's just that the stakes are way too high. Like when you're investing like hundreds of millions of dollars into something, you kind of need to be sure people will buy it. And
Yeah.
people are really predictable in the sense that like if they know of something already, they'll just, even if it sucks, they'll get it. You know what I mean? Like how many new Star Wars things have they put out in the last 5 years that actually were terrible, but everybody consumed it anyways?
Oh, 100%. Exactly. It's that predictability.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why Barbie did so well.
Yeah.
Like, that was huge. I mean, because they knew there was a huge fan
Hey,
base
you
for
guys
it.
know Barbie, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you had like $300 or $400 million just to throw at an investment idea that was a movie, like you wouldn't want to throw it at something that you didn't know was going to sell the box office.
Yeah,
You'll never
exactly,
see that back.
And this
Makes
is
sense.
Same with video games. It's just like, why would you even make a new game when you can make Call of Duty 15 and know it'll? You don't even really have to make a new game.
Yeah.
Because people will just buy it. Or like FIFA. Like the fact that people still buy FIFA games is fucking insane.
How many FIFAs have they made now?
At one every year, like forever. I don't know.
Yeah, the gaming industry is so insanely huge. Activision's Megaton Call of Duty
shit.
franchise has now made over $31 billion. That's insane.
Yeah, and it's like 90% just the same game.
Yeah, it really is. They're just adding new like levels and characters, and that's so crazy.
I mean, I don't blame them for it. It's our fault for buying it. You know what I mean? Like, people stop buying it, they'd have to come up with something new. But like monkey brain, bad.
I was talking to Morgan Page again about the like future of VR and outside gaming, and how like gaming might not even be the biggest use case for VR in the future. It's going to be like human to human interaction basically of some sort.
The Zuckerverse.
Zuckerverse. But even like, I mean, you look at Tomorrowland, I think it was like 2021 or something. They tried to make like an interactive concert experience that you can hang out with your friends and like watch live music being streamed from the DJ in this like virtual world. And even though it was like probably way before its time and it kind of sucked, it was still kind of a really cool proof of concept that like it makes you wonder like 10 to 15 years from now.
Oh, it'll totally.
You just sell tickets to a virtual concert that you're throwing down, and all of the people there can actually hang out like as if they were next to each other.
I actually just did a show in VR chat recently. There's this guy, PK, who runs this label called King Deluxe, which is a sick label. But he's moved his entire thing from running this label where his whole thing was like, get these awesome releases and then get really cool music videos made for them. That's like how we found his shit. But he actually completely pivoted into 100% VR chat events, which made no sense to me. But he was like, no, you got to come play one of these. And so I like made a set for it, and then like had no idea what I was getting myself into really. But the amount of effort that went into this VR chat show was so fucking insane, because you can control the entire environment with shaders, and they had like over 100 people in this room together. So it's like, it started in like this club, and there's like all these people like gathered around this club, and like the whole back wall would just, and like the ceiling and everything would just turn into like shader visuals that was all audio synced and shit. And then at one point, like the whole back wall of the room just breaks open and it turns into this giant like natural environment. And there's like giant insects flying around and shit.
Whoa,
and
that's
everybody's
wild.
just like walking around outside and like going, like walking up mountains and like watching the thing from the top of the mountain. And then at some point the whole thing broke and it just like ejected everybody into space.
What?
And everyone is just like flying through space and everyone's just like cracking up and the music's still fucking playing and like all it was so chaotic and
so
like
crazy.
they put so much effort into this thing and it was actually an awesome time, but also like really jank, like definitely not the thing we're talking about of like a real proper event in VR. But I think that like we're already seeing that there's so much potential to break the mold of like a traditional show as soon as the medium is like, oh, you can just make anything you want in this little world and everyone will be in it together at the same time.
Are there like restrictions as to how close people can stand to you
Oh, no.
in VR? Because I'm
Fuck
just
no.
picturing all these kids just like standing on you, like while you're playing. There's just like all these like shapes like just clipping in and out of your
Just
view.
running around you in circles while you're DJing.
It's a weird thing because it's like real life, right? Like I could come stand right next to you in real life, but
Not if I'm
people-
playing on a stage, like
Yeah, you could. You just be a dick.
you could just like bust past the security so you can stand next to the DJ.
I mean, straight up, there's like people like would like a few people did like run up to the stage, and sometimes people would be like, "Yo, what are you doing, man?" And I
Well,
used,
their mics just come on while like you're in the middle
yeah,
of
it's
your
all
set.
proximity, so you can talk to people like normal, and like you can go and like actually like clip into a guy. But they'll just be like, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get away from me!" Yeah. So it's like actually, there's like a real like societal like social thing where like if you're a dickhead, people will treat you like real life because they're most of them are actually in headsets too.
Yeah.
So when you go and clip into them, they're like are looking down at you like, "Get out of here!" But yeah, no, it's chaos, and you can like change so you can be like 500 feet tall,
Yeah.
and be like a duck or like anything. You can change your avatar in real time and your size in real time. And like, I turned into a little rat, and I was just like running around everywhere, like looking up at people.
It's amazing. I want to be a 300-foot duck. That's the dream.
Dude, it's sick. I wonder if anyone actually got any footage of that because I'd love to show it to you guys.
That's so cool.
I'll see if there's like something I can pull up on Twitter. But
Did you see the new MSG Sphere in Vegas?
dude, it's fucking nuts.
Did you see the inside of it?
Yeah, it looks absolutely.
It's absolutely
ridiculous.
insane. Yeah, I want to see.
Oh, is this the big eye thing?
Yeah, so it looks like a
Yeah.
giant eyeball. It's not too long ago that they built it. Look at that. It's so
The
crazy.
basketball.
It's huge. It's just one giant LED screen. And like,
Insane.
so you're looking at this massive circular screen, basically. It's taking up half of Vegas. You look at the inside is built the same way. So you're
Yeah.
like immersed in this whole new world. It's so crazy. Like
I'd
I
love
wanna-
to see somebody like projecting just their desktop onto this.
Yeah, I
Just like
wanna-
moving icons around on this like massive ball.
yeah, it's incredible. Because like I'm trying to find like a picture of the inside. See if you can see what this looks like. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, there's
Oh, we love ads. Shout out to the ads.
Yes.
So fun. Give me
Oreo.
more ads.
more
Yeah.
ads, please.
It's my favorite thing in the world. Yeah, I like Oreos, but this makes me like them less.
Do they count as a nootropic?
Technically,
I
yeah.
think an Oreo technically is a nootropic.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's fast forward. Yeah, dude, that's so crazy.
Oh.
That's the inside.
futuristic. There are multiple levels, but
Oh, they
it
built like
doesn't
a mall
truly
inside of it.
feel unique until you go into the theater part itself. They came out, they started playing their first song.
Old mate Bono.
And then
Yeah, Bono,
very
of course.
gradually they started to show imagery on this massive screen behind them. It just fills up your whole field.
Look
of
at that,
vision.
dude.
The stage
That's
feels
insane.
small in comparison. The stage is shaped like a turntable. There's a round.
I don't know if we need this
platter where
dude to
the band-
explain this. Like
Yeah.
I can see it.
We can see exactly
Yeah.
what's happening, bud.
We don't
Thanks,
need your
though.
narration, sir.
It's like a dome, and you're inside
Yeah,
of it,
you
and it's
ever
projecting
Thought about
images.
a sphere, dude.
Yeah.
That's so wild, man. Look at that.
That's crazy.
It's an entire new world that you're immersed inside of.
I hope some really cool people end up playing there.
Yeah, of course Bono is going to be like one of the first people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like how rapid technology has advanced. 2007, the first iPhone came out, and it was basically a brick that like was barely in color that could just do some cool basic stuff.
Actually, you know what's funny is the video of like when they first demonstrate the like touch screen where he's like scrolling the buttons and people are just like, yeah, like, going crazy.
Oh my God.
That's so good.
It's amazing.
It's crazy to think that the first one didn't even have apps. Like it couldn't really do fucking anything. It was that page is all it had.
That was literally it. Yeah. I mean, the App Store barely existed if it did.
I don't think it did.
I don't think it even did. Yeah.
It's like you could like use the calculator or like call somebody.
It's so wild, man. That was 2007. So that was only 16 years ago. I mean, you think about how far we've come in 16 years since the iPhone was invented. It's insane, dude. 16 years from now, it's like,
it's going to be scary.
Think about the nootropics we're going to have in 16 years.
They probably didn't have nootropics back then.
They didn't know what that was.
That's why their shit sucked.
Yeah. They thought macaroni and cheese was like a superfood back then. Dude, it's crazy. Like all the crap. Like you guys have like your own FDA, but like I don't think half the stuff we eat in America is legal compared to what's in Australia.
Yeah.
Or anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Like you guys have much higher restrictions on like diet and what's approved. I mean, processed sugar.
Yeah, we don't give a fuck out
you
here.
guys love your corn syrup out here. There's like a lot of corn syrup.
It's in everything, dude. It's in everything.
Even Coca-Cola is different. I feel like that's like the benchmark for me. Like Coca-Cola is just like the same everywhere. But you guys have like a corn syrup version here, which is the normal one. Mm-hmm. And if you want the non-corn syrup one, it's like Coca-Cola Classic, and it comes in this fancy looking bottle.
And you pay twice as much for it.
Yeah.
Like normal Coke.
Yeah,
it's just normal Coca-Cola.
Yeah. What happened to just like sugar that came out of a field?
Yeah,
like I miss those days.
Sugar.
Yeah, well, we have too much corn to do that.
There's a lot.
We gotta use this fucking corn.
You're trying to fix the corn problem.
Have you ever thought about just how much of America is corn? It's actually terrifying.
Yeah, it's insane, man. Like cornstarch is used in batteries.
Like corn is basically used in like every food product we have in some capacity.
Yeah, it's wild to think about.
I think we just have a lot of cane sugar in Australia as well. Like we have a cane sugar problem. We don't actually, but I just assume it's the comparative thing.
Interesting.
Is have corn, we have cane.
Yeah, cane. I'd much rather have cane sugar.
Yeah,
I mean, because it's a different type of like sucralose or whatever it's called that like how your body processes that sugar and breaks it down. Because like when I was in Africa and there's a lot of cane sugar in Zambia. And so I went to like a field and I just ripped out some stalks of it's like kind of looks like almost like a corn stalk type of thing. You just like rip it out of the ground, and then like we took it somewhere and then they would just like grind it and like smash it into like this syrup. Like I would just take a little tablespoon and taste it, and it was like awesome. Like I feel like I could have eaten a bunch of it and not felt sick.
Yeah,
totally.
But if you go eat like a Twix, if you eat like 2 Twix bars, you're like ready.
You're definitely gonna
to get cracked out. You're ready to take a nap in like 2 hours.
Yeah,
it's so different.
So concentrated.
Our food's garbage.
Yeah, it's wild. You know, the FDA I think is like extremely corrupt. Have you heard of the new documentary series called Painkiller?
Mm-mm.
It's really depressing. So like if you're in a happy-go-lucky mood, like don't watch it. But it's based off of the true story of how OxyContin was created. And long story short, it's wild. And it's supposed to be pretty accurate, actually. I heard a documentary, or the guy that made the documentary, I heard him talk about it. But Purdue Pharma basically hired all these really cute girls to go out and sell OxyContin to these doctors. And like fresh out of college. They didn't know it. They had no medical training. They didn't know anything. These are like business college grads.
Just lobbying doctors, essentially.
And they paid them enormous amounts of money to go out and just hit on doctors and basically like push pills to the doctor's patients. And the only way they got the OxyContin drug approved in the first place is because it was actually denied by a guy, and I forget his name. But basically Purdue Pharma, they ended up taking the guy into like New York City, some like penthouse suite for like 5 or 6 days. And after
just bribed him.
Yeah, they basically bribed him. And I think it was something like 6 to 9 months or something like that after he approved the drug. He quit the FDA and ended up working for like a subsidiary of Purdue Pharma, making like 6 figures. He was making like 40 grand a year. And then he was like instantly making like 200 grand, like right after that. Yeah.
Above board cartels or something crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Some America shit.
America.
America. It's all about pills and corn, baby.
Pills and corn and guns.
I love this while eating sweet corn this 4th of July. Is that a thing? You guys eat corn on America Day?
Of course.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
That just says
Absolutely.
it. That says it all right.
That's
there.
a real thing. Some corn
Corn
and
and
watermelon
burgers.
and some hot dogs.
Yeah. You need some corn-fed beef and some corn.
Yeah.
Some dogs.
Yeah. Do you guys have hot dogs in Australia?
Yeah.
I think everyone has hot
it's
dogs.
I think
that-
it's the same. Well, like, do you guys call them glizzies out here? Is that a thing?
No, what's a
I swear-
glizzy?
what
That's
is
a hot dog?
Yeah, I feel like maybe
No.
this is just like TikTok shit leaking into
Yeah,
Australia,
maybe
but I've
it
heard
is.
some people say glizzy and it makes me laugh. It's funny.
I've never
Wait,
heard
I
that
need
term.
to Google this. Actually, can you Google glizzy?
How do you spell it? Glizzy?
I'm pretty sure it's-
Glizzy?
Yeah, I guess so.
Glizzy meaning hot dog.
Yeah,
Okay.
glizzy hot dog. Maybe you're right.
You're right.
Glizzy meaning hot dogs.
Well,
There you go.
usage of the
Thanks to
term has
TikTok.
been around for a while. It's only recently gained significant attention on social media, particularly on TikTok. Glizzy
is-
gobbler.
Dude, TikTok's really educating the masses.
Yeah.
This is the stuff people need to know.
That's terrifying. No, I heard a statistic, something like, what was it, like 70 or 80% of all the information that active TikTokers consume is on TikTok. Like so 80% of their news and like
Yeah,
information
yeah.
that they get is on TikTok.
It's like where people go. That is
Yeah.
the line I've drawn for myself is like, I am becoming old now because I will never get to TikTok. I'm out. I won't fucking do it.
I know, me
I
too.
refuse.
Yeah.
It actually makes me like sick to my stomach to watch people scroll on TikTok. It's scary.
Yeah, definitely. It really, I don't know. I feel like I'm entertained, but slowly becoming dumber the more I spend time on TikTok.
It feels like a thing designed to just like destroy your brain from the inside out.
Well, I mean, the main motivation for the companies creating TikTok and all these social platforms is to keep you on the platform as long as possible. That's their main goal.
Data.
Yeah.
Be
And
addictive. And you look at it and you're like, yeah, this is just like screen drugs.
totally. Exactly. Did you watch The Social
Meaningless.
Dilemma? The documentary?
Oh, is this the thing with Facebook and how they talked
Yeah,
about how they like had
they-
all these things designed to make it as addictive
Yep.
as physically possible?
They interview a lot of the people, like the guy who created the algorithm for YouTube.
Yeah.
And a lot of these like really, really brilliant people who like created a lot of these platforms. And then they also interview a lot of psychologists who've been studying this stuff since the beginning. And it's like crazy how addictive they designed everything to be. And
I mean, yeah, that's the only way you can stand a chance.
yeah.
If you don't do that, something else will. And that's kind of the whole, we want that. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Again, we're the problem. We want to be addicted to the
Right.
fucking video. Everyone loves it.
Yeah. Well, and like we are the product too. So like rather than us like using a product, we actually are the product because of advertisers, and then like they're
Data
selling
hoarding.
information and just harvesting all of our data.
I feel like a lot of the people that like invent the algorithms, at least the ones that go on documentaries, maybe there's like a bit of like sample bias there, but I feel like a lot of the people that like invent these algorithms end up quitting and working for like some sort of activist
They're like,
society
"What have I
directly
fucking
opposing.
done?" Yeah.
yeah. They try to like make peace
Yeah.
with themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Sold their soul to the algorithm.
Yeah,
It does suck, man. But,
I think that like there are some beautiful things about social media though. Like
oh, obviously.
for whatever reason, I mean, like if I ever just need to mindlessly scroll or watch something, you know, or like if you wanted to connect with an influencer, another person who's a musician, like you really only had MySpace back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, obviously like I've connected with so many people in the music scene just through Instagram. Like,
Oh,
so
that's
there's
why we're doing this shit
yeah.
right now. You
Exactly.
know,
I literally wouldn't be here
Yeah.
without social media. so-
exactly right.
it's a necessary evil for sure. And
It
I think
is.
it's like, it's just how you use it, right? Like at this point, almost all the social media I use is just to like actually talk to people as opposed to just like, other than YouTube. But YouTube's also gotten just like so shit in general because it's the same problem of like the same way the algorithm is trying to be addictive. Everybody who's trying to actually be successful on the platform has to lean into the algorithm. So it's just like everything trends towards this. Just make it as like short form and meaningless and loud and colorful as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of that for sure. Yeah, I think it's also like the intention of like I have I look at my screen time now. Like I have a shortcut on my iPhone so I could just see how much time I have.
Yeah,
There's certain apps that will actually lock you out of social media.
Yeah,
Which I mean, if you're like addicted to social media and that's like a real problem for you, then it might be worth downloading one of those and just like setting those boundaries for sure.
Yeah, at least become aware of like, oh, I've spent like a third of my life the last week just like, I don't even know what I saw. You know, that's the worst part is when you scroll for like 2 hours and then you come back and you're just like, that was a void. Like I just like disappeared from life for 2 hours and I have nothing to show for it.
Totally. Your eyes are glossed over.
Yeah. This is why TikTok scares me because it's like, it's just a pit. Like a pit of people talking like this. And it's fucking Jesus.
Most of my TikTok videos are just like dogs or like people playing with like pets or like fun pet videos.
Good
or
vibes.
It's like Afghanistan footage of people like fighting and like bombing.
Real
and, like,
polarizing algorithm.
Complete opposite.
Emotional whiplash.
Yeah.
I'm so confused. I was like,
No, that's
either
balanced.
I
That's
love
very
pets.
zen.
It's so like back and forth. I was like, how did I get both of those for whatever reason? Just feeding me combat videos and puppies. Makes
People
no
are definitely
sense.
designed to do that.
Apparently that's what I'm into. I don't know.
Yeah.
But sweet. Well, what about you, man? Like we've had a great frequent episode so far. Like what's going on in your world?
What are you doing, Andre?
Man, I'm just fucking vibing, I guess. I came over here to play shows and just like hang out with all the people I've been talking to on the internet for like 10 years, including this fella, which has been crazy.
Sweet.
It's wild out here. Like everyone just hangs out. Like I feel like so much of the like activity in the music industry over here is due to the fact that everyone is just like super social.
Yeah.
Like, people just get together and do stuff. Like I don't know if it's a cultural thing or like a geographical thing, but I've noticed like Australia is sick. Like I love Australia and the music scene over there. But people don't really sort of like get together and just do stuff as much. Like they don't. Not all the producers connect. Everyone just kind of like sits in their house and drinks a Tui's and makes beats by themselves. But yeah, no, it's so cool over here. Everyone's just like super social. I feel like I've met so many people in the last like few weeks just hanging out here.
Awesome. Love that for you, man. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good music scene here. And I think the culture for the most part is pretty laid back.
Oh, yeah.
Just like very social. People are generally friendly. A lot of bad drivers, but there's a lot of really friendly people, I think, for the most part in Denver. It's one reason I moved here too. Same reasons you said. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, the driving far out. I've seen some mad light exit rips when, like just from the left lane, just like
Freeform.
Yeah.
Very fluid driving here.
It's funny because there's a lot of bad drivers that think they're good drivers. I think everybody thinks they're a good driver. Very rarely will people tell you, I'm a bad driver. Everybody thinks they're the best.
I'm just a passive driver. I drive like a fucking 75-year-old woman. That's how I roll. I roll nice and slow. Not stressed. I got the jazz channel on.
Is that the weed though? Is that the Colorado weed?
I think it started with the weed and then it just became who I am,
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not willing to be stressed while I drive.
Good. That's how it should be, man. That's perfect.
My parents are my mom is the most aggressive driver I know.
Me too.
It scares the shit out of me.
Same.
I just like constantly, I'm just like, why? Like you don't have to though. Like it could just be chill.
She's on a mission. She's got to get places.
She's the one on the road, like screaming at people like me.
Yeah.
And I'm just vibing, just going like 10 under. Just like, we'll get there.
She's just trying to get to Costco.
Yeah. It is funny here though, because there's not like a theme to the way people like you go to like LA and it's like everyone is just like absurdly aggressive and just doing whatever the fuck they want to get to where they want to go. And like you expect that. So it's like part of the meta. But here it's like you have every guy. You've got like the slow as fuck guy. You've got like the insanely aggressive guy.
Yeah.
And you've got everything in between. Clueless people who are lost, just like, oh no, I gotta go right now.
It's true. It's very diverse here.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I saw somebody blow drying their hair while they were driving the other day.
We got that fucking guy.
I was like, what is this lady doing? It's like, ma'am, barely didn't have time before you leave.
Oh,
like,
dude, no, it wasn't with you. When we were going to, it was with Izzy and them. We were going to In-N-Out Burger, and as we're pulling in, there's this lady pulling out of canes, just brushing her teeth in her car. It's like,
The hairdryer is something else though. Like, how is it battery operated or
Shut
she's
up,
like
you
plugged
got a
into the
car outlet.
console?
Yeah, you can get like you get an adapter and like plug it in. Yeah.
Man, that's efficiency. She's really really found the most efficient route to live her life.
Yeah.
She needs a bathroom.
She's kind of swerving, and at first I was kind of mad, and then I'm like, you know what? Like, good for her.
Good for
She's
her.
multitasking.
Yeah.
She's trying to get somewhere, and you know,
I feel like if she was really cost effective though, she'd just stick her head
Roll
out
the window down.
that's a really good point. It
Yeah.
would probably look better if you just shove your head out the window and be
Yeah.
like, just dry it all out at once. It's very dry here. Wouldn't take
Do
long.
the
Yeah.
dog dry.
Yeah. So what about you? So what's your upcoming shows? Like, what do you have coming up?
Next one is Salem. That's Wednesday. Man, there's so many places on this itinerary that I've like never been to, so it's gonna be fun. But Salem, Massachusetts, and then I got Submersion on Thursday to Saturday,
Cool.
which should be sick. I've heard a lot of good things about Submersion. I'm pretty sure that's the Rust, they like label. They're sick as fuck. And then I got Lunatide later on. We got a couple of dates with Coan Sound. Me and this boy gonna be playing
That'll
with
be
Hudson
dope.
Lee. Yeah,
That's
man,
gonna
I'm
be
so
cool.
excited for that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's crazy.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
That'll be
yeah.
sick.
Thank you. Oh man, it was sort of surreal, like, cause like I feel like I've been following Coan Sound since like 2011.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if I could go back to like my 16-year-old self and be like, hey, you're gonna play this date when you're like 27, I would have lost my shit.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. That's probably about the same time I started listening to them too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, they really are like kind of the reason a lot of this shit happened.
totally.
In a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of other people involved too in that sound, but they were kind of like the central, like the thing that everyone was
Yeah.
obsessed over figuring out and like
Yeah.
wrapping their heads around early on.
I was like a massive bro step kid before Coan Sound.
Same.
Yeah, like that was the like big hard steer when Coan Sound came in. And I think I might have heard their stuff before this, but when Skrillex featured their like Kill Everybody remix, or
Yeah.
actually Funk Blaster was on Owsler as well.
It's crazy that they were like that plugged early on and they
Yeah.
like had they had the whole Owsla thing and were like, I think they even played some shows with Skrillex out here. I don't know if that's true. But
Yeah, no, I think during the like Owsler era, I think they did. Yeah,
I was too young to go to any of those shows. So
I was too Australian to
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
any of those shows.
It's a pretty long drive from Australia.
Yeah, lucky I got my Jesus board. So I can
Yeah, you
skate
just
on
ride
water.
that across the ocean. Amazing.
Yeah,
Sick,
it
dude.
was sick. They were such a massive influence.
This might be one of the longest podcasts I've ever done, to be honest with you. It's
Nice.
like, when did we start?
we started
2:30?
around 2:30. We
So
peed.
yeah, it's 2 hours. I guess that's not too crazy.
You edit these?
It's partially.
Okay.
I like do a quick cut and then I send it off to my video guy. He actually does video for Mr. Bill. Shout out.
Oh, Carter?
Yeah, shout out to Ryan.
Oh, no,
Altbrax is his name.
Wait, what?
Yeah, ALTBRATZ.
Oh, alt brats.
Altbrats. I think I butchered that. Sorry, Ryan.
Sorry, Ryan.
Sorry if I messed that
Sorry.
up, bro. Yeah, he's super cool dude. Yeah.
Shout
Oh,
out Gmail.
yeah.
You have to
Oh.
like blur out this entire.
Right. Yeah, ALTBRAKZ.
Yeah,
Altbrax. Sorry, dude.
Altbrax.
Messed that up. There you go. Yeah, he's a real MVP. Love that dude. If you ever see any of like the Instagram reels from the podcast, that's him. And the YouTube video. He makes me look good.
Polo.
Yeah.
Editing is such a slog. I have a few
Yeah, it
mates
is.
who like do YouTube stuff and they like never go outside.
Dude, I had to buy so many new hard drives just for video files for the podcast now that I'm doing it in person because eats up the crap out of your hard drive.
Angles.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So much space.
lot.
It's wild. We've learned a lot today from like glizzy hot dogs to
Yeah.
the Nyquist theorem. And
Yeah, we ran it all.
Oh, you guys
So
went
many-
through the Nyquist theorem?
he
Yeah, in
gave
like
us a
5
quick
seconds.
rundown. It
Yeah,
was
he gave a quick rundown.
Oh, yeah.
one of the best
explanation.
explanations in person I've heard on this podcast. For sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm really good at explaining it.
Yeah, this is why you're out here tutoring.
And so humble too. That's
Oh,
the,
Yeah, he's gonna invoice you for that for sure.
yeah, it's $100 a minute. Yeah, we had when was your episode? You had your
It was like May. Oh, it was either like May or March. One of the M months.
yeah, it's been a hot minute, man. I think it was like episode 1,
There
There
we
it
go.
is.
You
Oh,
just
there
scrolled
was.
past it. Right after Brian Funk.
episode 132. So it wasn't that long ago. It's February 14th.
Oh, February. Wow, that was a while ago.
Yeah, that it feels like forever ago.
That was Valentine's Day.
Oh, it was. That was a
actually
cute
came out on the-
episode.
Yeah, that's a
That's really
cute
cute.
episode.
We spent Valentine's together and we didn't even know it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Love that for us. All right, well, we could probably wrap this up so that way Ryan has less to edit later, and
Word,
I
yeah.
would love to continue to hang out all day, but I'm sure you guys also have things to do.
So busy. God, we're
Yeah.
so busy.
Later today.
Yeah, that's
I'm actually
important.
running late.
You don't want to miss that. You can't miss that at all. Yeah, sick.
But thanks for having us on, man.
Dude,
Appreciate
anytime.
you.
Yeah.
Anytime. Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate what you guys do, and I think you make some really dope music, to both of you. And yeah, where's the best place, Nolan, to connect with you online if people want to hit you up after this?
Email me, hit me up on Discord at Frequent Audio. Look for my website, frequent.audio. That will be dropping. Should be there by the time I really hope it exists. By the time you hear this.
TikTok in the meantime.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
TikTok.
Hit me on TikTok.
Yeah, MySpace.
Follow lots of dog channels and Afghanistan channels.
Amazing. Well, all the links will be in the show notes as always, everybody. So make sure you go give Nolan, aka Frequent, some love, and Copycatt as well. Yeah, dude, this is a pleasant surprise. I walked through the door. I was like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Did not expect that.
That was fun. I love gate crashing.
Yeah, anytime. You're welcome to come crash the podcast anytime you want.
And I'm totally going to take you up on that.
Yeah, do that.
Be
please.
careful.
Yeah.
Slam so many nootropics. We're just going to ruin your shit.
That fridge is going to be empty. You're not even going to see me. It's
Dude,
just-
honestly, it's not a bad thing. We have so much of it. But yeah, shout out Magic Mind.
Shout out Magic Mind, for
Shout
real.
out.
Love them. Sick, dude. All right. Well, bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Dan.
See you next time. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Do me a huge favor if you would and hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you don't hate the podcast, please leave a 5-star review. It would help me out a ton. Don't forget to check back on Tuesdays for new episodes. I plan on cranking out a lot more in the upcoming future. Also, if you didn't know, on Spotify, if you click on an episode on mobile, you can interact there and you can tell me what you think about this episode and other episodes, and would be great to hear from you and see what you're thinking about the podcast. If you want to be the first to get new episodes and stay updated and get free new devices and sample packs and other stuff that I'll be sending out in the future, join the newsletter. Just go to liveproducersonline.com/newsletter and or check out the links in the show notes. Make sure to give this guest a follow on the socials, give them some love for spending their time. And once again, thanks for listening to the podcast. I will see you next time. Later.